hastily. The first kid we made the decision hastily.
Not accidentally, but hastily.
No accident. We have been talking about having a kid, the second kid, because with Amelia, the idea was we can record if you want.
It's already going.
It's already going.
Just in case we start. This doesn't. This will probably, we can cut it all or whatever. But you got headphones to your left if you want headphones. You want headphones? Twitter. No.
Just
so we can hear.
She.
As a narcissist, we can hear ourselves better.
Amelia, we had. We wanted to. The plan was to have kids and then be done having kids.
You're good. Yeah.
Okay. Be done having kids early.
Yeah.
And then just so we could like travel and do stuff. So we were married and then we got pregnant like 10 months in to our marriage. And that was like planned. It was all planned. And then we had Amelia and then that was that, and then we were like, one's really good.
One's good.
We really like this one thing. We wanted to have 4.
What the fuck?
Because we both came from very small families. She was an only child. If you don't count my brother and sister, which I don't. I honestly don't.
Okay.
Then I was an only child. So we had very small families, and we both wanted a big family. So we were going to have 4. And then Amelia was a difficult baby. She came 5 weeks early. She was not her disposition or anything. She just had like these, very minute, manageable medical problems, but
still problems.
But the managing of it was very taxing, and
on top of a child,
on top
is
of
already
a baby,
that. Yeah.
And we both had jobs that we never saw each other. We both had part-time jobs at the time. I mean, mine was part-time. She was working at in the union and for the Stagehands Union and working at the Center for the Arts as the master electrician. So she was like gone at nights. I was gone during the day.
And at night, I mean, you were doing comedy. You were
doing comedy. That year, I probably didn't do much comedy. The first year of Amelia.
Yeah.
It was like the only time we've ever actually fought. My wife and I was during that time because we were so unbelievably tired. She had to feed Amelia every hour for the first 3 weeks.
Oh, because she was so
her jaw was
early.
Her jaw muscles weren't formed, so she couldn't latch for that long. So she couldn't feed for that long. So we had to feed her every hour, and that meant waking up
every hour.
And she would wake me up so I could burp, so she could go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would,
because she's like, listen, if I'm up, you're up.
Yeah, which
you didn't mind.
Did not mind.
Right.
Did not mind. I got away with not doing it for like the first few days, and then she was like, "Why am I doing this? I am," and I was like, "Well, you're not working."
Yeah, that's
I'm also working, but like it didn't matter. I did it the time we didn't. I still don't sleep. I sleep terribly, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, we would get in fights over the worst shit, where it was just like I'd knock the bed, I'd run into the bed, and that'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And that was it. We were just fighting. Yeah. So it was just very, very hard. We were broke, and we were living in an apartment in Vista, it was actually a nice apartment, and so that wasn't a terrible thing. But it was just small, and we were good with the one. She was great. As she got older, she just kept getting better.
She was always a good kid,
and so we're like, she's super smart. This is great, and then
you're like, let's ruin that.
Kinda.
Yeah, it's 2-on-1.
Kinda.
We got somebody running defense all the time. Yeah. We have too much free time.
It was too much free time. We were in just too good of a spot.
Yeah, we have too much money. We have too much free time.
My wife likes to do things where she's like, things are going fine. Why don't we switch it up?
Yeah, this is too comfortable.
Yeah, I get that. We both moved around a lot when we were young, and I think this is her way of now that we don't move around. I think this is the way of her like messing up our lives.
Right, she has to have some chaos.
Yeah, it's like, well, let's buy a new car. Let's
add a payment.
Let's buy a house. Like it's just all these things. But we were, we were very fortunate over the years to put ourselves in a position where having a second kid was doable.
Yeah.
Financially and with our jobs, and we were like, all right, let's do that. But then my mom was very sick.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I use this word not lightly, but it just dragged on. Like she was originally given 6 months. She had pancreatic cancer, and then she beat it. And we were like, great. And then, but that was a while ago. We weren't going to have kids then. And then it came back and she beat it again. And then around that time, we started the discussion of maybe a second kid. And then my mom's cancer came back like with a fucking vengeance the third time. And that was it. And she was like, I don't want to do treatment. I don't want to do anything. I'm tired. And even her doctor was like, her doctor who was amazing, who eventually became like the head of oncology for Southern California Kaiser. Amazing doctor, very sweet. She was like, this is bad. She was like my mom always asked her to be very honest and open, you know, because my mom was a nurse for years. She's like, just tell me the truth. Like, don't sugarcoat it. And she was like, yeah. You know, she's like, this is bad. This is the worst it's been for you. Besides the first time when it was 6 months, you know, she's like, I don't know what treatment we would give you right now that would reverse course. She's like, but I think we could manage it for a while and then see what happens. See if this does do anything. But this is probably the one time where I would tell you there's no guarantee other than just managing the cancer's growth rather than like reversing it.
Which just means
living a little bit longer, living a little bit shittier.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
you're going to be in pain. It's going to suck.
You're going to have to go through treatment. And so my mom was like, nah, forget it. And so that put a big hold. Or like, well, I'm not going to have a baby. And then mom pregnant, and then she like dies a week later. Like, I think that would just break her heart, you know, like that she couldn't be there for her grandkid. Yeah. Which that was all she wanted. She loved Amelia so much. She just wanted grandkids. And so we were like, all right, well, let's hold on. Well, then my mom lived for like another year.
Because Amelia was how old when you guys had Quinn?
Well, Quinn just turned 2, so Amelia was 7.
Wow.
And Amelia desperately wanted a little sister.
Yeah.
It's all she wanted. Like, so badly she wanted a little sister for years. And that was really one of the big things that like pushed us to doing it was she wanted it like so bad, you know, and she's such a good kid that we're like, and she's great with like little kids around her and stuff. Like, there's no way she won't be awesome. So that's covered. And that's like a big piece of the puzzle when you have kids, you know? And I think having them so far apart was like for us, it was a really smart move because Amelia was old enough to get it. You know, she was old enough to understand. Like most people have kids and they're like, we'll have one and then we'll wait a year and a half, right? Another one. And the one you just had,
has no,
you know, like my buddy Sean, he has 3 kids and let's see, they had one, waited 2 years, had another, and then waited 3 years and had their third. And I said, and right after Quinn was born, our 2-year-old, we were like, let's have another one right away and then we'll be done. That was the plan. And I asked my buddy Sean, I was like, what do you think about 3 kids? And he's like, I'll put it this way. You have 2 arms. And I was like, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And then, and Quinn was like an amazing baby, like better than Amelia. No, she came early too. But
you hear that, Amelia? She's better than you.
We were told, we were told that she would come early. Like they're like, because your first one's so early, like your second one's going to come early. And she came like 2 weeks early on St. Patrick's Day. And they were like, she was just so easy. Did
you play your intro music for her when she came out?
I played Dropkick Murphys, yeah. I'm like, doctor, hold on. Yeah, she couldn't be more on brand with our family. But yeah, so like we even though Quinn was really easy,
it's still a baby.
We were like, I think this is it.
Yeah.
And then we brought up to Amelia about having another one. And Amelia was like over the moon. Like we did our announcement video for Quinn was us telling Amelia we were pregnant and her just like crying of joy, like just joy, just couldn't believe. And then we went and found out it was a girl and we brought her with us to that. And she was like she's just fucking amazing. So cool. And she loves Quinn. And Quinn idolizes her. And again, I think the year break, like Quinn can look up to her and communicate with her, and Amelia can do this. Like Amelia can take care of her a little bit. You know, there's just like, it's good for us, for our situation. But Yeah, we were just like, we brought it up to Amelia. We're like, we're thinking about having one more. And Amelia was like, why would you have another baby? And we're like, because, you love Quinn, right? Like, maybe we'll do another kid. And she's like, you shouldn't. Like, she was like really not into it.
What are you, fucking stupid, Dad? You got 2 arms, Dad.
She was really not into it, man. And then like my buddy, my other friends with multiple kids, sorry, James, we were like, they were all like kind of, yeah, I mean, two's where it's at, right?
Yeah.
And
everyone I know thinks it's a good idea until they're outnumbered, and then they're like, what did we do?
Yeah, I think if I was younger,
I could see that.
Because we did get to a point too where my wife is younger than me. For everybody who's tuned out already, my wife is younger than me by 9 years.
Should we start recording?
Oh, did we not? It would be really funny if we were just talking about this.
I'd be into it.
To each other. But yeah, she's younger than me, so she was all for it, and I was like, I have to start doing the math because
of how old you're gonna be when they graduate high school. Yeah.
I'm like, right now, when Quinn graduates, I'll be 58 when she graduates high school.
It's about where I'll be. Yeah,
and I'm like, that's good. That's not great. Would rather be younger.
Yeah, but. It's fun. I look at both sides of it because, like, I have, like, my first wife, she had her kids when she was 19 and 20. And now she's 40 and her kids are graduating high school. And she's, like, having a new life.
Yeah.
Like, she and her husband are, like, they're out traveling and doing things. And, like, they're still young enough to go. And I'm like, I get that. But also, you were broke and going crazy through your entire 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is, like, that's kind of the trade-off. And, like, that was why we had Amelia right away, was because we were like, well, we were in a position where like, we don't have money. We don't know if we'll ever have money. Nobody in our family has money.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not money just to be had one day. So we were like, unless something happens for one of us, this is where we're at. And wouldn't we rather get done with this early and then we can be old
and broke
and
instead
broke,
of, yeah.
But at least we can be old and like in a small house or something on a porch. And that's it. That's fine. We're good.
Yeah.
That was the plan. And then, in traveling, like that's all we ever wanted to do was travel. But then we have good friends that they have 2 kids. And even before they had their second kid, they were like always traveling and they're like little.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, how the fuck are you guys traveling all the time? And they're like, you just do it.
Yeah. You just do it.
And we're like, okay, but you got to bring, and they're like, yeah, you bring a bunch of stuff, but you just do it. You got to go just, they went to Japan with like babies. And
that's a long way.
Like all this stuff. And you're like, but then you start thinking about it and you're like, yeah, why do we wait? What are we waiting for?
Yeah.
We could all die tomorrow.
Yep.
And we didn't go because, well, they're little.
Yeah.
So we've
like, there's some things I think like when I see babies at Disney, I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm that parent.
Are you?
Yeah.
Like, but your older daughter was older. Like, I love Disney. Even as an adult, I enjoy a good Disney day. Like, that was one thing in Florida. We had passes for my stepdaughters, but my wife and I were like, when they'd be with their dad, we'd go for a night and just go to Disney for the day because we had the passes. There was a 45-minute drive from Tampa, and that was fun. But like when I'd see a baby there, I'm like, you guys could just be like go to a resort and sit by the pool with the baby and just relax. Like, it seems like a lot to go to Disney and not be able to do anything because the baby can't do anything.
Here's the thing about Disneyland is like, I am such a fan of Disneyland that I just like going.
Just being in it.
Going. So like there are times now we've had passes. I've had a pass at Disneyland since I was like 22.
And that's here. So you've gone. Have you ever gone Disney World? No,
we almost did. We got very close, but we just drove around it. I'm just kidding. We had a. I mean, this is getting us into a different. Actually, it all goes together though. Traveling here. Yeah. Let's be human. With James Schrader. Did we start recording?
Yeah.
Is this what this podcast is?
It's what it is.
Is it a podcast?
I don't know.
Did you put anything out yet?
Not yet.
You should.
They're all edited.
I'm here to promote an album. So
yours, I will bump yours. I already thought this. Yours will bump to the front because you have an album.
I am a celebrity.
You have hundreds of followers.
Mostly bots. Some are followers.
Thank God for bots.
Thank God for bots. I know when Elon Musk was like, we're getting rid of the bots. I was like,
hey.
Hold on now. I get booked on these bots. We booked a cruise, a Disney cruise.
I've heard those are amazing.
A year, like this was 2019. So 2019, probably like we booked it January of 2019, and we were going to go to Florida.
Yeah.
And the idea, my dad has a place in Florida he goes to for the winters. So the idea was we were going to go in late February, I think it was, 2019. And then we would go early, hang out with my dad because he lived very close to Disney World, and we would do the whole Disney World thing. We didn't have a baby yet. It was Amelia. It was just Amelia. We weren't even pregnant yet. And that was the idea. That was what we were going to do. And then this thing started happening in China. And it was
the Olympics.
It was the Olympics. Yeah, the Olympics. And we're like, well, we can't miss the Olympics. We have to stay here and watch everything live. No, and then COVID and started to creep up. And we called in advance before they canceled anything. We were just like, this seems not great. Like, there was that one instance of like a cruise ship where like everybody died, you know? It was like that fresh, clean, unfiltered COVID.
Yeah, like that early COVID. Yeah. The pure COVID. The pure cut COVID.
Yeah, the pure cut COVID. Where you just would like, if it touched you, it was like anthrax and you died.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so people were like, nothing had been shut down yet, but we were like, obviously we're in Florida, cruise ships, people from all over the world. So, you know, let's just hold off. So we called and we rescheduled. And because we rescheduled, they gave us this credit because they're like, oh, thank you for rescheduling. Because you did that, we're going to give you like, it was something like
like on top of what you?
On top of what we had. So they were like, we're going to give you like a 20% credit or something for rescheduling instead of canceling because everyone was canceling.
Oh, okay.
And so we said, oh, okay, great, cool. And then we pushed it to a year and then... And then like 2 months later, everything shuts down. They cancel everything. So they call us and they go, hey, we have to reschedule your thing. But if you don't cancel and reschedule, we'll give you 25% credit.
Again.
On top of all of this.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, holy shit. Yeah.
This is practically free.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 3 bottles of booze.
Yeah.
That 25% credit. Yeah. So we were like, yeah, okay, sure. And we did that. And then when I was talking to her, I was like, hey, these credits, can we use them for anything Disney? Or does it have to be the cruise? And she was like, no. She's like, you can use them for anything you want. It's Disney. And we were like, really? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, because we wanted to go early and go to Walt Disney World. Like, could we use this credit for tickets to the park? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. So that was the plan, was we were going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then... another year goes by and nothing's open and no one's doing anything. And so we were like, all right, well, they called us to do it again. And we said, well, we need to make a decision. We'll talk and figure out how we want to schedule it. Pushed back again. We were pregnant, or we had just had Quinn maybe at that time. I think we had just had Quinn. So we were like, well, we don't want to do a cruise now with a baby. That sounds terrible. Yeah. So we were like, well, we'll push it. We'll push it. And then we were like, wait a minute, there's that resort in Hawaii.
Yeah,
it's a Disney resort.
I've heard it's great too.
So I said, can we use our credits for this?
Absolutely not.
And she was like, you can't, but we will refund you everything, including the credit we gave you on top of it. So you can use that. We'll just refund it to you. And she's like, and we'll just give it to you as like credit.
Full Disney credit.
And then full Disney credit, and then you can just use it for whatever you want. But we can't transfer it for you. And I was like, done. So we booked like a 10-day stay at Alani in Hawaii, and we had like a super sweet room. It was nice. Not like a huge room or anything, but like the view was perfect. And
is that everything it's chalked up to be? I've heard good things, but...
Well, here's the thing. It's a Disney resort, so it's clean.
It's perfect.
Clean.
It's Disney perfect.
There's not a... Well, and here's the thing is like, the restrictions, the COVID restrictions, like masks indoors and all that stuff, the day we left, Hawaii lifted those restrictions. So like those restrictions were
in like,
place.
They're gone. Everyone's safe.
The McLaughlins have left. We were coughing a lot, but because Hawaii had like no cases for long. Like they were super strict about it.
Yeah, they were nuts about it. Like to fly there, you had to get the tested before, like the 24 hours before or whatever, and the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we had to do all of that to fly, which is like, we don't care. Like people make, we can get into that if you want, but people make such a big deal about being inconvenienced. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
You want to fly 6 hours across the ocean, you have to get a nose swab.
I'm sorry that the old woman on the plane doesn't want to die because you're inconvenienced. We didn't give a shit. Like, so we did the thing, and then we went, and it was, Amelia had a great time. It is definitely for kids.
Yeah.
But it's nice enough for adults. Like, it's not like we were there and like, this is so dumb, but there was just not a lot to do because things were still shut down. Like there wasn't a lot of the interactive stuff you couldn't really do.
So you're sitting by the pool a lot.
But who gives a shit? The pools were amazing.
Yeah.
And they had their own private beach, although no beaches in Hawaii are private, but they like have their own beach cornered, So we would go down to the beach. It was on, why can't I think of the word? Kauai? Nope, not Kauai.
It's one of them.
Oahu. It's on Oahu.
Oh.
And so we drove around Oahu. We went hiking, beautiful, beautiful hikes. Went to the North Shore, which was like incredible. So we would like, we kind of planned out. We had so much time there that we were like, every other day was like a resort day where we hung out at the beach. The restaurants across the street from the resort were really good. A lot of the restaurants at the resort were still closed, so there wasn't like a ton of options. But like, it was great. I mean, Amelia, all she wants to do is go back to Alani. That's like her favorite thing in the world.
Are you gonna ever go back, or is it like, yeah, we did that? We'll go to
I don't think we'll ever
Florida
go to
and do
Alani
a cruise.
again.
Yeah,
we did. Well, my wife's grandma then during the pandemic moved to the Big Island because she lived there for a little while, and she moved to the Big Island and bought a little place in South Point, and so a few months, 6 months ago or whatever, we went out for Thanksgiving and spent Thanksgiving with her on the Big Island. And I would go back there every chance I got.
because one, you have a place to stay.
Yeah. But also we looked up buying a place. I looked up buying a place because
Everywhere you go, I talk to you when you get home and you're like, before we left, I started crying and I looked at my wife and said, how are we going to move to Ireland?
Yeah. Well, we're going to move to Ireland. I don't know if we'll move there, but we'll buy a place. Listen, I don't like America. And Hawaii is not America. Hawaii is in its own little place. And
what don't you like about America?
it's just boring. I'm just kidding. I like America. Actually, during the pandemic, we did a little RV trip around.
Mm-hmm. I remember,
We got in the, because we were like, everything's closed. And Amelia was on, school was just iPads at home. So we bought, some hotspots and we rented an RV and we drove around the country. It was actually great. I mean, that was awesome. It's kind of one of those things where like, there's something, I don't know if you've noticed that in America right now, the temperature's a little hot.
Yeah, everyone needs to just remember that shit could be really bad. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like everyone's on edge and like, "Wah!" It's like, hey, like you're too comfortable. If these are the things you're kind of concerned, if like my feelings, like yeah, hey, everyone be fucking nicer. How about that? Well, also everyone calm down and take a breath.
That's it. I mean, that's just what I was saying, the inconvenience stuff about like getting a nose swab or whatever. It's like, really? It's okay. Like people are like, putting a mask on my face you're violating my freedom. I'm like, you're going to Albertsons, dude. Like, just put a fucking mask on your face and go get some fucking taquitos. Like, what's the problem? Like, it's just those kind of things where like people just act like it's the worst thing possible that has ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And you're like, have you ever heard of like, I don't know, slavery? That's like really bad. You putting a mask on your face to go to Albertsons.
But also like the people complaining or like posting about it on a phone made by slavery.
Exactly.
Which is a topic now that's like out there. Like,
Well,
we know
was the
that.
best
We
part
know.
about, like, they're putting chips in us. They're putting microchips in us. They're like, you're carrying one around with you every day.
Yeah,
moron.
it's listening to you.
Like-
Everything in your house is listening to you.
Everything. Yeah, you know when you pull out your phone and like all you see is tweets that agree with you? That's by design, you idiot.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's
everybody. That's the worst part. It's everybody.
well, and it's like it's happening in other countries too. So it's not like you can really get away from it. But I feel like in America, based on my experience of traveling to other countries, like I don't know if you feel the same way. I just think Americans are just more quick to the punch. Like they're on edge. It's like everyone's on edge. Like when we were in Hawaii, dude, oh my God. Like nobody cared about anything.
I grew up in the Florida Keys, which is not Hawaii, but it's not Florida. It's not America. Like it's its own little weird little environment that runs on its own clock. Like Keys time is a thing.
Yeah.
And I realize like people go to the Keys, and I think Hawaii is like this for white people. People go there to get away from everything else. It's a different little like, I don't know. It's a different life.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting. Like growing up there, we're like, dude, everything there is like kind of tourism based. It's all very chill. It's all like in the Keys. Okay. And it's like everything has to do with booze. Everything has to do with a good time. Like I grew up and spent my childhood at Kokomo, where the Beach Boys, they had that song Kokomo. Like it was literally like a bar 3 miles from my house.
Yeah.
Because everything is just chill in the Keys. Everyone is like, there's just, hey guys, there's a bikini contest at 2. Like, everyone chill out. And then you go anywhere else and it's like traffic and life and thing. Everyone's just,
Well, that's why I loved, I mean, that's what's like amazing about Ireland is it's just like, and when we went, we were there for a while and we had like a private tour guide. It was one of my mom's bucket list things to go to Ireland, and so we like spared no expense, and we had a private tour guide who drove us around, and nicest dude in the world, incredible human being. I actually wrote a story about the trip, and I don't know how. I have a dad, but if I didn't, this guy could have been my dad and I would have been fine with it. Just like the nicest man ever. But he was telling us that people in Ireland, they are very, very relaxed and very welcoming for the most part. There's always pockets that aren't, but they're very welcoming. And he's like, and the reason why is because like in Ireland, they like had problems, like real problems. Yeah. Like how America had the Civil War, like that happened just like 20 years ago in Ireland, like, and it's still kind of iffy.
Yeah.
So it's like, they know what every day is like. And to put it in perspective for people to understand, it's like Ireland's not big. So like, just pretend that California had a civil war. The state of California had a civil war, and it was just recently, and it went on for like 100 years.
And there's still every now and then people that are fired up.
Yeah. People are pissed. Yeah. And it's like, that's how close quarters it is. It's just like, so people kind of have just grown to like respect each other and be calm about it. And, hey, if we're not bombing each other, then it's a good day and we're all here together. And it's like,
but tomorrow
you never know. But that's why, and like, it's, when we went there, that was the mentality. Like that was the feeling that you had in Ireland, which it was just relaxed, it wasn't, people weren't on edge. It was just, they were there to hang out, and there's struggle, like people struggle there, but it's like, it's real struggles. It's not like the government is trying to take over. It's like, hey, we got to work all day. This is our life. But then they get to go and just enjoy the landscape. Do you know what I mean? Like like with the Keys, it's just like you're in this beautiful place, and they look at that and they know what it is, and they accept it and they love it
and they appreciate
it. And so it's like, no matter how bad things are, you go get a pint and you go home and you have one of the most beautiful views, just because that's where you live.
That's whether you're rich or poor.
Yeah.
Like, how much rich did you even see that? Like, I'm sure there is rich in Ireland, but it's like
not that much.
Not
dude.
really, right?
Not really. I mean, it's Ireland. The rich is just property. Like you just have acres.
But the poor still has an acre.
But the poor still has, I mean, if you looked up houses in Ireland, it's expensive. It's more expensive than you think it is.
Because people like you keep wanting to buy homes there?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not like these giant homes. Every home, I mean, there is, listen, Dublin and Belfast, those are big cities, just like any other big city.
They're growing. There's new homes, Yeah,
and it's, you got apartments. There's real shitty parts of those cities, like just like any other big city. It's not... But like if you go to like Galway or Donegal, where my family is from, and even Sligo and like Leitrim and Dingle, it's like these places you go and you're just like, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been to, and it's just like it's as spread out as like Ramona, you know what I mean? Like it's like this small city where there's not a lot of people, but it's like it's beautiful. You know, I don't know.
And it's old, right?
It's old, and
like everyone's walls are hundreds of years old, right? Like, is it that kind of thing where like the properties are divided by these like rock walls and and like that's been there for 300 years.
Yes, the tour guide was like, "Oh yeah, those rock walls. They've been like some have been there for like 1,000 years. Like they just and it's like there's castles and there's big estates that are still there. Like I follow an Instagram account of colonial Irish houses." Because it's my dream to buy one.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're huge, But even then, most of those houses now are like public, like they're not like, so like one of them, they have families that live in them and like run the estate.
Right.
But for the most part, they're like tourism attractions, So it's like, even then there's not, in Ireland, there's not really like, maybe that's the biggest difference now that we're talking about it. Maybe it's like, there's not really a wealth gap in Ireland like there would be in America, where it's like those rich assholes are taking us down. It's more like those British assholes who are taking us down. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying that now, and I'm sure someone will listen to this. And
because there's wealth.
Sure, but it's like that's not what the problem is in Ireland. The problem is like you might wake up tomorrow and your city might be bombed to shit by the other city next to you. Like that's the problem. And like here in America, we're like, now I have to pay for Twitter. Like
right,
that's the big,
Like, okay. My there's a surcharge on Uber deliveries now.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
My property taxes went up. Yeah, that is bad. That is
bad.
But you know why that's happening? Because you only care about one thing in life, which is Trump. If you actually voted in your local fucking elections for 1 minute and paid attention to them, you could reverse those property tax issues.
And that's not just Trump. That's both sides. That's both sides are arguing at the highest level as if it fucking affects.
He's the guy right now.
Right.
So I'm telling you, it would have been Obama if we did this conversation 10 years ago.
I have a friend that I met 11 years ago now when I did improv in Chicago, and I thought this was fascinating.
Yes, and?
Yeah. And he was from Ireland. And he grew up in Belfast, and he was 10 years older than me. So he's 50 now. I'm 41. He's 51. But he grew up the whole time. All the shit was going down. And he was like, it was crazy. He was like, literally blocks from my home, huge explosions. Yeah. There were streets you couldn't go down. There were times when you knew to just stay home. There were like it was constant for a couple decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was like, it was terrifying. Like I have friends that were involved. I have friends, And at the same time, he grew up in Belfast. It's a beautiful place. He told me he petitioned the government. He wanted to set up an improv school in Belfast. They sent him to Chicago and gave him the funds to go train in Chicago to learn improv, to bring it home and set up this art theater.
So here's what's funny. I was just going to say, I just did a show. I did a play called The Ferryman at New Village Arts.
I tried to go. It was sold out.
We sold out every show.
Thanks for the tickets.
It was, I'm just surprised Dr. Squatch couldn't get you in. But the show was written by this guy, Jez Butterworth, who, in my opinion, is the best living playwright. And at the same time, this play is considered by many to be one of the greatest plays that's like.
Would you mind doing a scene for us now?
I would. But it's.
Do you need a goose?
It's based
I have
in
a goose.
Ireland.
Do you want me to bring a goose?
If you brought a goose in here, yes, I would do.
You had a live goose on stage.
I had rabbits and geese that I had to touch and hold and move around
while acting.
The goose part was very much like the lines I had did not matter, and I knew that, and I'm sure the playwright knew it as well. So I just kind of.
So it's more about the goose than the lines.
When you walk out on stage with a tiny theater with a live goose.
How do you get a goose?
There's goose people.
You can rent a goose? There's goose. You got a goose guy?
They were therapy geese.
That's not a thing.
It is a thing. I mean,
is that a thing in Ireland? No, it's not.
No. Like, that goose will bite you. Therapy. They was therapy geese from Ramona.
Of course.
And there was an over-under on how many times the goose would bite me. And it only bit me twice. And I was told
during shows.
And I was told by the handlers, they won't bite. They're therapy geese. They go to old folks' homes.
They're
and
trained.
Schools. They won't bite. And I'm like, yes, but we are right now putting them on stage in bright lights, surrounded by actors who are going ape shit, surrounded by an audience who is also going ape shit because the goose is on stage.
Yeah.
And I'm holding it.
And this goose, if you're holding it here, That's head
Its
head
head
height.
was very close to me.
Where's it biting?
It bit my fingers both times.
Okay.
But you're told to I was told to rub the bottom of its neck because that's like a calming thing for them. Mm-hmm. So I would do that. And then the first time it bit me, they said, oh, well, it's grooming you because once you get it calm, it'll go and it'll rub against you as a grooming thing to tell you it's calm. But the opening night of the show, it fucking bit me. And I'm like, no. And the whole audience saw it. And the whole audience was like, oh. And like they kept moving, and I told, and they're like, no, it's just grooming you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever you need to do for your records.
Yeah.
And
now,
then,
when a goose bites you, it doesn't have teeth, but that's a.
It's got little razors on its
Does it
beak.
on the inside?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really gets you.
Me. Very red, didn't bleed.
Okay. Hurt like hell.
The opening night. The second time it bit me was not as hard. I'm more scared. I was more scared of its little feet because its feet has like sharp nails on it.
Do the chickens have large talons?
Exactly. It's true though, dude. You don't think about it because you're like, why would it have like nails or talons?
Because that's all it has.
Goose, you know? But literally, they would freak out and they'd start like running in the air. And our stage manager had it. She would hand it to me, and she had like cuts all up and down her arms because they would just go apeshit. And so I was more nervous about that.
Got it.
But it never did that to me.
And it never got loose.
Never got loose. But again, like I worked with animals for a long time, so I was very comfortable with the animal. Yeah. I wasn't scared of it. It was more that it was just like, this thing, it's a goose.
It's a fucking goose.
And
they're big.
They're big, and they're not known for being nice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, geese are like mean animals. So like.
You heard it here.
No, you didn't. Many people have heard it before here.
I don't think they have. I don't.
Okay.
That's the one thing we pride ourselves on with this podcast is that we're bringing new information to people about the animal kingdom.
That's true. And that's what Be Human is all about.
It's about the animals.
Let's be human about animals. But the show was about the Troubles in Ireland in the early 80s. So it was like there was northern town in Ireland in Armagh and I don't want to give away the plot, but it's like the IRA's involved and it's this whole thing. And they brought a person over from Ireland, this woman, Amanda Doherty, who's a fabulous actress. She came over and to kind of help. She was from Northern Ireland and she
was like a
there.
consultant to keep it
kind
real.
Of a consultant, and she was an actress and stuff. The government paid for her to come over and do it. Because she petitioned the government. She had met some of the people from New Village Arts when they went to Ireland to kind of do some background and research for the show. And they had just kind of met her and like began a friendship. And then they said, well, if you can we can't afford to fly you out, but if you can figure out how to get here, like we'll put you up, somewhere and feed you when we can, whatever we can do. So she petitioned the government to give her a grant to come do it. And they were like, yeah. She was over here for like a month and a half and they just paid for the whole damn thing. But like, that's the kind of shit where you're like, that's a government that you want. Like a government that
until the follow-up question is, well, what are they paying taxes? What's income tax in
Ireland? I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. You're the one trying to buy a place.
I'm not trying.
You are? You're buying?
I bought a place.
Did you? No, you didn't. Did you?
I buy places all the time, man. I bought one in Hawaii. I will end up.
Are you Googling?
I am Googling what
this could be interesting. Because that's the part. It's like, yeah, I'm with you. That's the government you want. Like, can we actually spend our money on things that improve the arts, improve the culture?
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I think it's the way we spend is so backwards.
The income tax in Ireland. Your income up to a certain limit is taxed at the standard rate of income tax, which is 20%.
Sounds reasonable. No, because you're paying 30 something plus state.
United States has the top tax rate of 39.6%.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Sorry.
Unless,
you're basically who you are. Because to Ireland, you could get to 48%.
Oh.
But that's their top tax rate.
Yeah. Which is about the same as here.
About the same.
Got it.
We have a family house now in the Big Island, so I don't have to worry about buying a house there. But
right.
That'll stay in our family. But but Ireland, yeah, we'll eventually get a place there.
Do you need a place, or like that's the thing? Like, do you need a place, or it's like, or we just go Airbnb a different fabulous place and save all the money?
My wife refuses the Airbnb, and
why?
We had a bad experience with Airbnb.
One,
and that's all it took. we
Where did it
still
happen?
did it. We still did it for a few times afterwards. Sex. And
So the Airbnb ruined not only the
we went to
Airbnb, but
Utah.
sex for you.
We went to Utah to visit friends.
Yeah.
And it was I don't know if it was, I think it was Harriman was the city, and which is like right outside of Salt Lake. It's like essentially like Claremont and Mira Mesa, like right next to each other. And we went to this Airbnb, which is like in a neighborhood, like just a fucking neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we pulled up, and it was snowing. We pulled up, and the garage to the house was like open a little bit, and there was like a car seat, like a baby car seat, like out in front of the garage. I'm like, this is weird. And then we looked it up, and they said to go around to the back. And we're like, okay. So we went around to the back, but it made more sense when we got around to the back because every house had like a basement thing, basically, with a door. So we go in, and it's like a little 1-bedroom with bunk beds, kind of Airbnb, basement converted into this Airbnb thing. And it was kind of like weird, I don't know, just like it felt more.
Did you not know it was going to be a basement?
No.
Because that would change it. That's like,
we
oh,
did
look at
not
this
know.
cute little house we're going to be in. And you're like, you're in the basement.
No idea it was a basement.
Okay.
And it was kind of one of those things where you're like, this looks a little more like we might be locked in here. And this is like we were given this to survive. And there was a staircase that went up because obviously you're
to the main house.
To the main house, right? So like,
don't go up the
Sam
stairs.
was like, can you just look around the stairs? And I was like, sure. And so I walked up the stairs and I looked around, and there was no door. There was just a curtain that was hung to break up the stairs
from the upstairs. So you couldn't lock yourself. They could come down at any. You heard them walking past, and then
we didn't hear anybody. We didn't even stay there for longer than an hour. We were
you were like, we're out.
Sam was like, no. As soon as there was no door, she's like, okay, find a hotel. And I'm luckily a Bonvoy Marriott member.
Oh, okay. Hey now.
So we were
Golden Geese, Bonvoy Marriott. What?
We got a lot of things going on. So we like literally like called a hotel that was close, and they were like, yeah, we have rooms. And so we went over and we stayed there for fucking the next 4 days or whatever. And
did you get your refund? Airbnb refund?
No. I forget actually what Sam did. But which I know she went back and forth with the guy because the guy was like, well, why did you leave? And she was like, we just left. We're staying at our friends now. And he was just like, well, what was wrong? Was something wrong? And she was like, no, we're just not staying there anymore. And so he kept messaging, and I would like literally messaged him back, and I was like, hi, I'm her husband. Leave us alone, please. We're not staying.
Well, why not say, hey man, there's no door, you creepy fuck?
Because I don't need to get into that shit. Just leave us the fuck alone. Like, why do you even give a shit?
Well, he's probably like, hey, we have this really nice little place. Why do people keep leaving? Nobody will tell me why people keep leaving.
That's a good point. Maybe that's why he was upset. But yeah, we're not going to Airbnb Ireland. She won't do it. So we're going to, but she also says the same thing. Why buy a place? We'll just go when we want to visit. But see, I look at it like this. We have Disneyland passes, right? If we didn't have Disneyland passes, we'd probably only go to Disneyland once a year. I want to go to Disneyland more than that. We have passes. If we have a house in Ireland, I'm not a big house. I'm not saying we're going to buy some big house.
Cute little cottage, bigger yard than house. Like you want a piece of land.
I just want to go and have a view.
Yeah.
And that's all.
And a cliff to jump off of.
Yeah. And you know what? There's places in Ireland that are so cheap that are just cliffs. It's because
like house on a cliff.
Because there's nothing around. There's zero around. So it's like
easy to get to though?
No,
like,
that's the whole problem.
like is it like land at an airport, rent a car, and then drive for 7 hours?
I mean, I think that's how long it takes to get to from one side of Ireland to the other. But yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's very hard to get to, and you can get there for really. There was a place in Ireland actually that was paying people to come live there. They were paying them $30,000 a year to come live on this little patch that's kind of like its own island, and it was because nobody would live there, and they needed people to help like
just keep it up,
sheep and goats and.
I'm surprised you didn't do that.
We thought about it heavily.
Did you really?
But it was like that thing where like we have kids, they'll go insane. You know what I mean?
What do you mean they'll go insane? They'll go raise insane. Sheep. They'll run around on an island.
Quinn wouldn't have cared. She didn't know.
Yeah.
This would be the only life she ever knew. Amelia would have gone insane. Okay. That's hard, dude. You look at kids who live in Coronado. They all do drugs. Because they're like
but that's different.
Island.
Yeah, but that's different. That's like, but they're stuck on an island with a bunch of fucking rich yuppies.
That's true. That's good.
They're not running around digging ditches and finding animals and playing with the sheep. And I don't know. I think that's two very different scenarios. And again, how long did you have to live there? Never mind. But
I don't know. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I mean, if we have a place, we'd just go more often.
I get it. That makes sense.
I would go more often.
Yeah.
I can stay here. But who knows? I just want to travel. That's all I really want to do.
It is
and people always go, oh, don't you want to like, because I tell people all the time, I'm like, I would live in Hawaii. And they're like, you'd go nuts. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because there's just nothing, you're just stuck there. I'm like,
have you been?
Great.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's like the Keys.
What are you talking about?
I look at the Keys, like I still have friends that live there, and I visit every couple of years I go down, and I couldn't live there because of what I do. Like there's no, and it's kind of funny, like now that I'm a comic, there was zero culture in my mind in the Keys. Like there was no comedy. Like I did some community theater and whatever, but like in my mind as a kid, there was like, there's no way I'll be on Saturday Night Live because that's not possible from here. There's no way I'll be a comedian because there's no comedy here. Like that's not even, there's no path from Isla Morada to whatever. Mm-hmm. But now I look back and I'm like, oh, what a, like I was 6 years old the first time I had a scuba tank on in the ocean with my dad. Yeah. Like, and that was just part of life.
Yeah.
I was snorkeling by the time I was 3. I was, like fishing and doing stuff. And like, we had boats as a kid. By the time I was 8, we had a small boat for my brothers and I that like, when I was probably 10, I could take it out with a friend by myself.
Well, see,
that's unheard of anymore.
And that's kind of what like I miss about, and I apologize that I'm looking at my phone, but I'm just making sure I'm on schedule here.
You got to go? Do we have a heart out?
I do have a little bit of a heart out.
Right.
We have time.
We do.
But growing up in San Diego, because I grew up in San Diego, very close to where we are right now. The exact address is, just kidding. I was very close to the beach.
Yeah.
We're very close to the beach. Like 10-minute drive, if that, from the beach where I grew up. And it was like that thing where it's just like, well, if it's there, then why are we not going there? You know what I mean? So we would just go there all the time. My grandpa lived even closer to he lived like right above Mission Bay. So it was like when we go to his house, he was a part of the Mission Bay Boat and Ski Club. So we would just go there all the time. We'd go on he had a boat. We'd go on his boat all the time. Like, just why wouldn't we be going there?
Yeah.
And when we weren't going there, we would just be skateboarding, or hanging out, because it was like the Claremont at that time in the 90s was very, very beachy oriented. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like there, you were somewhere where there was stuff to do in nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like for my kids, we live in Temecula, and it's beautiful up there.
It is. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like,
it's desert-ish. Yeah.
Like I wake up sometimes, I walk around in the morning or whatever, and I'm like, it's gorgeous. Like my dad's come out a few times and visited us, and he's just like, it is so beautiful up here. We're in the mountains,
Yeah.
It's like it is beautiful. And
but it ain't San Diego.
And half the year it's hot as balls.
Yeah.
So like when you can go hike or something, it's usually really fucking hot. And my 9-year-old does not want to go hike in the heat. So it's like, she doesn't really want to go outside and do anything that's involved in the nature that we live in. So it's like she's, doing fucking shit on her iPad and, like hanging out. We'll go to parks and do stuff and ride a bike or here and there. But it's like, that is like the plus of living in a place like Hawaii or the Keys or San Diego proper,
as kids,
where you're like,
we were on our bike. My parents would kick us out. We'd be on our bike. We could go anywhere. We had like a big neighborhood, which was kind of unheard of in the Keys. There's only a few of them because there's one road that goes all the way north to south. The island we lived on, which was Plantation Key, which is part of Isla Morada, was probably, I want to say it's like 4 miles long, and at the widest part, maybe a mile wide.
Yeah.
From ocean to bay.
Yeah.
And we lived in this one big neighborhood that like the entire neighborhood, my mom could blow. She had like a referee's whistle. You could hear it. And she was like, you better be able to hear the whistle because when I blow it, you got to come home.
Yeah.
But that meant we were free to go anywhere in this neighborhood, which half of it edges the bay. So every day all summer, it's like we're riding bikes. We're going to this kid's house. We're playing in this yard. We're going to go down to the boat ramp. We're all going to jump in the water, swim around, literally like grab a lobster. Like what, it was the best. It was the best.
And it's not like, like people go, oh, well, you didn't have iPads and stuff like that. And you're like, true. Like, listen, I look at my phone way too much during the day. It's awful. It sucks. I tell my daughter all the time, like, I feel
get the fuck off that. You're very aggressive with her. I've
really
seen it.
I throw her against the wall. I get really mad. But like, I just like, I tell her all the time, I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm on my phone. This is awful. And I'll put my phone away and like and I tell her, you get off screens. Like, let's do something. Let's go outside. Let's play. Like, it's very difficult. So I get that that's part of it. But what I'm saying is like, you grow up in a place, like when people go, you're going to go crazy in Hawaii. You're going to go crazy. And like, there's
no, I'm going to breathe.
Like, you kidding me right now? Like if they like I've gone to the beach more since we've lived in Temecula, which is way too long now, like 4 or 5 years. Since we've lived there, I've gone to the beach more than I did for like the last 15 years I lived in San Diego. And it was just because I miss it and I want my kids to be around it.
Yeah.
And we've talked recently about moving back to San Diego, which is still a possibility. I don't know. But it's like, I told my wife, I was like, if we move back though, we're not moving to like Mira Mesa. Like we're moving to the water.
Yeah.
And she's like, but we can't afford that. And I'm like, we'll figure it out. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to pay San Diego prices and
to
live
not
in
be
Mira Mesa.
That's the problem with here is it's like we live in that 300 square foot studio apartment because I'm like, if we go anywhere else, we're not here. Like we're 8 minutes from the beach in a tiny place, but we're right here. We drive past the beach all the time. We go play.
In your place for what? Mornings and nights. You know, it's like you're not.
We sleep here.
That's the whole. And like we need a little. We have the 2 kids, so we need a little bit of room. But it's like,
no, pick one.
I don't care if we. That's a good point. I know which one. There's the one that knows how to go potty. At
what age do they wipe their own ass? When did she start?
Jury is out on the oldest, and
because I'm like you're starting school in August. Like you can't be
what, 4 or 5?
5.5.
5.5.
And I'm like you got like 6 months to wipe that ass, kid.
Keeps fucking. You're getting there. You're getting to the.
But she kind of refuses. She's like
plugged in.
No, nothing's on. This is not. None of this is real.
I keep not hearing it. That's okay though. I don't. As long as you can hear me.
Yeah, I got you.
You're getting to the point where she'll start doing it. It's just like,
how well do they do it though?
Not well, dude.
Just itchy butts all the time.
Amelia used to talk forever when she was like probably 5 or 6 about how much her butt itched all the time, and we're like, because you have to wipe your butt, and she'd be like, I know, I am. And then you look at her underwear and you're like, no, you're not. Like, it's clearly like you're just one wipe and you're out. And you're like,
yeah.
I've seen
she's not even, I've been trying with the kiddo and I'm like, hey, like you give it a shot.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And then she wipes back to front. I'm like, hey, yo, whoa.
Easy.
Come on.
Yeah.
Front to back. We got to keep it away. And it's the same thing where I'm like, I watch it. I'm like, you're not even in the crease. You're wiping a butt cheek. And then she'll wad it up and she like wipes the butt cheek and then goes back. I'm like, you can't go back in.
Yeah.
You're just smearing it if you did get it.
I've done that a lot with our 2-year-old. Is I try to use a whole wipe if I can, and I've
you fold and go.
Messes. I bet I've made bigger messes than I should.
Now's when you're trying to save money on wipes.
Yeah, if we're gonna buy a house in Ireland
and San Diego and by the beach and
the 2-year-old, we're potty training her now. We just started potty training her, and she's taken to it pretty good, which is great. But she wants to wipe, and I'm doing air quotes. She wants to wipe, but all she really does is take toilet paper, rip it off, and throw it in the toilet. She doesn't even try.
That's adorable.
And it is adorable because I'm sitting there watching her going, please stop doing that.
Until you're not around, and then you go into the bathroom, and there's an empty toilet roll, and the entire thing's
She's already used a whole toilet roll. Not a whole one, but like what was on the thing. She's used the whole thing. She'll just keep going until you literally take it away. Any room I walk into, if there's a Kleenex box, all the Kleenexes are out and on the floor. Like, and she'll put them on her nose too. So it's not like you can reuse.
She just grabs one and
grab them, put them on her nose because we're teaching her how to blow her nose because she's in daycare. So she's sick every single minute of every single day. And it's fucking nightmare. So like, but it is adorable. You look at it and you're like, that's very cute.
Yeah.
I just had to waste $10 on all
the
Kleenex
that was
boxes,
$10 worth of cuteness.
Right. But yeah, the butt wiping does get better. She's 9, so there's no checking anymore. She's hands off. You're on your own.
Yeah.
The big thing that we go through is she just doesn't flush the toilet.
Just leaving them in there.
Just leave it.
Proud of them?
She's got her own bathroom that she'll share with Quinn when Quinn uses the bathroom.
In my mind, they're just like piling up.
No. No. It's sometimes too much for her. And if we walk by, we usually just always check it and reflush it.
What do you mean too much for her?
the smell gets too much for her because she just leaves them in there for too long.
Well, that's what. Oh, so she won't even go back in the flush her own?
She'll go back in to go to the bathroom again, and then she'll flush. But sometimes she won't. Because here's the thing too: is that like we have a master bedroom and a master bathroom, and then she has her own bathroom with her own shower.
Yeah.
She never uses it.
No.
Never. She uses our shower. She uses our bathroom most of the time,
and just leaves your presents.
Her big old stinky shits in our bathroom.
I've been shocked at the size of the turds. These little kids make.
Well, you're seeing what they're eating.
But they're grown-up sized turds.
Because there's not enough room in their body to keep the food in, so they got to go somewhere. Dude, I've seen some dookies that I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
I'm impressed.
Like, I don't know what it was, but good for you.
Daisy had like a little potty because she, like one of those little ones on the floor.
We got that right now, yeah.
And she would poop in it, and because it's just like there's nothing in there, it just becomes this like ball. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it comes out and it just kind of like soft serves into this fucking soft ball of
shit.
Yeah. And then I'm having to like fill it kind of with water and then try to dump it in, and I dump it into the toilet. Except it's this soft ball. It's not a poop. It's a soft. So then it clogs the toilet, and I'm like, this is impressive.
Quinn has yet to do like I feel like a real dookie in the potty.
Yeah,
we have the floor potty right now too. She'll do like these weird. Anytime I feel like she's like nervous, and she does. And they're not like diarrhea. It's just like these weird little squirts that she'll do in the like little Hershey squirts that she'll do in the thing, and then I change her diaper an hour later, and it's just
full
mammoth sized shit. But I'm like, why didn't you just do this? But Amelia was so scared when we were potty training her. She was so scared to take a shit on the toilet that she just wouldn't. And I guess it's a thing. We looked it up because we were like concerned. You know? And people were like, no, it's a thing that like they get scared because it doesn't make sense to them. And they get scared of like what they'll have to do and like all this stuff. It's like this weird thing. And kids won't take shit for days because they're too scared to go on the potty. So like, because the thought process is, well, they're going to eventually have to, but like they'll just keep pushing off and then they get sick.
What is the fear of the potty itself? Of like,
I don't know.
Okay.
I wasn't afraid, so I don't know. But it's something to do with like they don't know like what's going to happen to them. Like it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
But we literally got a friend of ours who was her babysitter, who she like loved when she was, I guess this was like 2, 3. She like loved her. And we were like, could you just send us a video of you telling her how important it is to go poo on the potty?
I thought you were about to say, can you send us a video of you
shitting?
taking a shit?
Send it to me first.
Can you put the camera in the potty and then above the potty? Yeah.
I don't want to see your face.
Just the
poop. And we said, can you send us a video of you just encouraging her?
Yeah.
Because she'll probably take it from you really well. And she was like, of course, totally. And we're like, okay, great. She wrote a little song on a ukulele about going poop on the potty and how good it is. And immediately Amelia started taking poops on the potty. And I'm like, you're the best babysitter in the world. It was the greatest thing ever. And but sometimes it's just all it takes is just for them
somebody that's not the parent
to tell them it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine. It's very weird. It's going to be fine. Did you ever have Daisy poop in the tub? Does that happen to you?
I don't think so.
I've had both kids poop in the tub.
Just like they're doing things and bloop.
Yeah. And they literally like, they look at you and you're like, no. And then it's just...
It's just gross. No, I do have a memory now. I have a memory. She was just there, and you just watched it grow behind her.
You just see it, and you're like, I can't.
And it's stuck to the tub because she was sitting. So it kind of like...
Neither one of them were sitting. They both stood.
It made eye contact.
Quinn made
always
eye
contact.
Quinn looked right at me. She was kind of squatting, and she made eye contact with me, and it was like she knew it wasn't right. But it was right. Was not right.
Yeah.
And it was awful. Cleaning that up is the worst. It's really the
worst. I mean, it's funny how, and I worked in pipeline. I worked in sewage for like 10 years when I did construction. We did like sewer pipes and storm pipes. And it is interesting how you get like desensitized. Like I would have to like climb down in a manhole. There's literally poops flowing by. I'm watching a screen because like we would inspect pipeline. I have like this machine that would drive down the pipe, and I'm literally like looking for cracks in the pipe while just turds are just flowing past the camera. Turds and toilet paper and everything you can imagine that's in the sewer. And then literally like, oh, time for lunch, and you just eat a sandwich while you're watching whatever. And then same thing with the kid. All of a sudden, like the kid, and it's like at first you're like, God, this is disgusting. And then you're like, you just cleaning shit, man. It's just your job.
I told Connor, Connor, when he had his kid, he was like, he messaged me and stuff. I was like, oh, congratulations, the kid and stuff. And he was like, yeah, man, this kid takes huge shits already. And I was like, yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, and then like a week later, he's like, dude, he shit all over my hand. And it was funny.
Yep.
Like, I didn't even care. And I was like, yeah, you just don't.
Yeah.
It's just, you have no choice. You are in the situation.
That's what I find. Like, I remember you're exhausted. You're handling that at 2 a.m. half asleep, and you're wiping an ass, and there's shit everywhere, and it's out both sides of the diaper and up their back, and and you're just But I found like it was really interesting that I remember thinking at one point like, how do I even have the energy for this? And then I realized it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is happening, and there is no not doing it.
We recently had and I'm not so recently, so sorry, that didn't want to concern you. Like a month ago, the stomach bug went through the house.
Like yesterday.
Yesterday I was throwing up nonstop. And no, we had like I mentioned, Quinn's in daycare, and when they go to daycare, they just get everything.
School too. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, so it's not. But here's the thing: school isn't as bad. Like once Amelia got to like school, like kindergarten, she'd come home with colds and stuff, and they can pass around flus and stuff like that. But you're not getting a lot of like the gnarlier stuff at schools. When she was in pre-K, which was like, we paid for it, the kind of thing. She got like lice 3 times. She got pink eye twice. She got fucking every sickness you could get at the time.
And you guys end up getting it.
And then, we didn't get lice. I didn't get lice. I can't. I'm bald.
What about the beard?
I've looked it up. They don't really go for the beard.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. But Sam got it because
pink
of
eye?
her. I did not get pink eye. We were very good about
Daisy
that.
had pink eye one time, and I felt horrible for this kid. It was like
it's the worst.
Just goo coming out of her tear duct.
Yeah, I don't know how I got it. When Amelia got it the second time, I don't know how I didn't get it, because it was like both eyes, and she was all over me. I didn't get it. But they get all that stuff. And then when they go to school, it's like, I think by that time, most of the kids have gotten it all. So it's like they just don't pass it around as much. But Quinn has been in daycare. She's not even old enough for pre-K. And like, she literally, the doctor was like, yeah, she'll get sick every 6 weeks. It's just how it's going to go. But she's like, it'll beef up her immune system.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of good for him. It's just a pain in the butt.
And that's what my mom would tell me too. She was a nurse. She's like, yeah, Amelia's going to get sick all the time, but don't worry about it. It's like, this is how they get introduced to everything. And you're like, don't worry about it. But then like you show, like Quinn has been sick so fucking much since she's been there since January. She's like not had a cough for like 3 days since January. Like, and you go and you drop off your kid and you look around, some of these kids are just like goop coming out of their nose.
Yeah. And isn't it like, no, because then they tell you like, if your kid's sick, don't bring them in.
Yeah. And you're like, what the fuck is his parents doing? Like,
they're working. They're working.
But you know what? Your work is never going to go, we're going to have to let you go because you took care of your kid. You can sue those people to shit. Like, you could sue them to fucking hell and back. Like, but people don't understand that. Like, they don't get it. They think that, well, if I can't like not show up to work, they're going to, what are you talking about? Like,
they won't get paid though.
Okay. But you know what you just did?
Yeah. Yeah. You just gave 7 other kids. You just had 4 other parents not be able to go to work.
Like it got so bad. The first month she was there, right away she was sick. Within 3 days, she had a fever and she was sick when she was there. And she got a little better, and then it got worse, and got a little better, got a little worse. And it got so bad, like in February or maybe early March, like Avengers. I couldn't be at Avengers because I got the stomach flu. I got the stomach flu. So like when and then there was like a week before that where I couldn't show up because we had another thing where I had to take care of her and take her to the hospital like 2 times to urgent care because her cough was so bad that it was just like
scary.
She can't stop coughing. And the doctor's like, yeah, it's going around. And you're like, great. What can I do? She's not, she's under 2. You really can't do anything. And even
because you can't give them the cough syrup.
Yeah, until 4, they don't want you to give them anything. So there's like a thing you can do, like the Zarbee's, like
Zarbee's,
zinc. I give her that every once in a while. And that does actually.
It does help. Yeah.
Take the edge off anyway. But like, it is like insane how much she gets. And I drop her off, and as soon as I see a kid, I'm like, oh, that's coming home.
Yeah.
And like. And it ruins, like, it was so bad that I literally tweeted, I was like, how about an episode of Bluey where all the kids get sick and then the healer's plans are ruined for a month straight because their kids are fucking home. Like, we literally, like, I missed so many shoots during February and parts of March. We missed a family trip we were going to go on. We missed like all this stuff, just cancel the end of the trip because it's like, can't fucking do anything. Can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
She's miserable.
And that's the worst part. Like a sick kid, when you're just sitting there and you can't do anything and you just feel
the worst.
Horrible.
And when she had the stomach bug, she was just like, for an entire, and luckily it was a bug that lasts, like you're only throwing up for like a day, like it was like a night.
It's a rough day though.
But yeah, the next day you're out, you can't do anything. But all night, puking all night. She couldn't stop puking, right? And we were like, God dang, poor kid. Like, she doesn't know. All she knows is that her body is giving up. It's like she can't process anything. And we just felt so awful for her. And then, woke up like 5 o'clock that morning, just jumping up and down, so excited. She couldn't be happier.
Mm-hmm.
She finally felt better. And we're like, please stop jumping. And it was
let us sleep.
But like circling back to what you're saying, like, when you're looking at the poop and stuff, it's like the same thing for me as like when I had the stomach bug. It's like, I'm going to vomit. I can't not just this.
And part of you kind of wants to. Like,
I'm
just
so
get
tired. I'm so like, you're like, I'm so tired. I feel so awful. I can't go through this. I can't do it. And you're like, I just have to. Like, I don't know. I have no choice but to go through this. And that's what I look like when I look at poopy diapers and shit everywhere. You're just like,
yep.
I have no, she can't clean it up. I have no choice but to do this. And then there are times where you go, why did we have a second kid? Amelia was doing great. She was waking up on her own, making her own breakfast.
Yeah. And then we started over.
We started over.
I remember after Daisy was less than a year and her mom and I looked at each other, we're like, who does this again? Who in their right mind?
Yeah.
But then I get it. Cause then, when they're 4 or 3 and they're fun, and you kind of forget all the work.
You totally forget.
You totally do. And then you're like, oh, another one would be.
When Amelia was so hard as a little, like a, infant, so difficult, we were like, no way. And people were like, you'll forget.
Yeah.
You'll forget. And you'll want another one. Like, that's not going to happen. And then like 8 months after she was born, we were like, and Sam was like, I think maybe we have another one. And I was like, what are you fucking talking about? And she's like, I know. And I'm like,
but wouldn't
and then like 2 days later, I was like, I mean, if you really want, and it was like,
because you're like, yeah, that means, we can have sex. Yeah.
We forgot.
Like, she's like, it's been 8 months. Don't you want to have sex with me? And you're like, I guess once. We'll go for that.
I was so scared of sex during the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And afterwards.
Because you're so big. Tall. You're tall. You didn't want to squish
I do have a huge dick. And it was very concerning to the point where.
Which Amelia does have that dent. I saw.
Don't even. You joke. But those are the things I was worried about. When we were sitting there, like, to the point where the doctor, our OBGYN.
You showed her your dick. You were like, hey, is this.
Let me get it hard.
That's happened. There's been a dent. It's like, no, you don't get it. You got to see it. Like, I just think you should see it, doc.
Some OBGYN just rolling her eyes. I get it. I've seen it. Sure, yours is okay. Get it hard. I was so nervous, and we had a male OBGYN for.
We should shoot that sketch, by the way. That's a hilarious sketch.
That's a pretty funny sketch.
just guy after guy. That's like,
no. All right,
let me
show me what you got. It's so big. Yep, you're the one. You're the one. Don't do it. We had a little old Asian man as our OBGYN.
Yeah.
And we got him by accident because we had a scare early on in the pregnancy. And the OBGYN we had was out of town. And so
that's always the worst. You sign up, you meet them, you're comfortable with them, and then the first time you need them, they're like, I'm actually traveling for the next 6 months. You're like, what the fuck?
Sam wasn't very comfortable with her. So it wasn't like, she didn't really care, but we just had to go in, and we got this little old Asian man, and he was like,
Vu?
No, not Vu.
Okay.
No, Lee. And he did this.
Don't be racist.
It's not racist. His name was Lee. And he came in, right? And he talked like this. He was a little like nerdy guy. Mm-hmm. Hey, how's it going? Okay, here we go.
Phone again.
And I was like, oh shit. And it was very early on, so they had to do the stick in the vagina, to do the ultrasound and stuff. And he was like, well, let's see here. It's just not a big deal. I want you to know, like, this happens. He's very, very like nice and easygoing. And let's just see what's going on. And like, this thing, he's like, okay, all right, well. And he's just like staring at the screen, and like we're like, he's like, what is that? Oh, what is it? Oh, that's a baby. We were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we were like seconds away from bawling.
Yeah.
But he was just like, and then he was like, a little gummy bear. Look at that little gummy bear jumping around. And like, it was just like, and we were like, you're our guy. You're our guy from now on. That was great. And he was the guy, and he was so nice. And he goes, I was very nervous about sex, and just because it's our first, we had that scare. I didn't want to do anything.
I get it.
You get really,
you're like, no, just it's fine. Leave the oven alone.
Yeah. And so it's like, and then so Sam was like, we're going to talk to our doctor about it because I don't want you to be scared about it. Because women, as you know, are insanely horny when they're pregnant.
Fired up, man. They get fired up.
And I was just like, oh God. So we went to the doctor, and he was, he broke out a little graph and like showed me like diagrams and like pictures of like how it's impossible.
Yeah.
For me to do anything, he's like, and I was like, yeah, but like, what if, and he's like, I know, it's okay. You're not going to
also like being on top, you don't want to squish the bit. Like
that was another concern.
Yeah.
And then I just had like,
because this is back when you were a fat piece of shit.
I was much fatter. Yes, much fatter.
No, a fat piece of shit.
Thank you. And yeah, sure. And but I didn't want to like. That was because I didn't want to be on top because that was it. But that was the other thing is like I had like this weird thing where like because we did have sex only a few times while she was pregnant because because
of you.
Yes.
She was like,
my mental block
over here
was really gnarly.
Yeah,
and like. That happened, and then it was like a thing of like I'm looking at her belly, and that's where my baby is.
Yeah,
and I could not. There was
perform.
That would no. I mean, I could at least do something, but it was like it really fucked with me. Like
it's different. It's
these things are too close. These things are too close.
My dick should never be that close to my child.
There's a barrier, sure. I saw the diagram, but this is too. And like, so it was really gnarly, man. It was gnarly. And then after we had sex, Amelia came early and it was like a big.
She takes after you.
Inappropriate. And like, so it was a rough delivery, and Sam was pretty,
Yeah.
You met my wife. She's a small
petite lady.
And so it was like, even the nurses were like, if you took her to term, you would be in a lot of pain. So you're actually kind of lucky.
She's like, you mean this isn't a lot of pain? Because I'm pretty sure this is a lot of pain.
They told her, like, when she came out, they were like, no, you're kind of fortunate that she's early, she's healthy, so you're lucky. But like, if you would have been. So like, so it was we had to wait quite a while before we could do it again, and then once you start doing it again, it's like that baby fever ramps back up, man, and you're like, oh man, and then but we're done. I got tied. I got my tubes tied.
Me too.
Yeah, dude. Got my VAS.
What? How was that? How'd that go for you? Did you get put out?
I do have to go in a few minutes.
Do you really?
Yeah, I really do.
All right. Well, we should probably start the podcast and talk about comedy.
We can talk about VASs.
I mean, I almost passed out during mine. They like stopped talking to me, and I could just feel tugging.
My wife is location tracking me right now, and she just texted me.
She's like, "Where
are you at a beauty lounge?"
Sort of.
I'm gonna take a picture of you so she knows that I'm not at a beauty lounge.
There we go.
And I'm gonna say, sort of.
Yeah. You and I met 11 years ago.
Doing each other's vasectomies.
Yeah, it was a DIY kit.
God, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
You had great balls.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of room to work.
You had great balls.
Yeah, I'm not known for being big dicked. I'm not. That's just
nobody's ever said that about you. Never. Sorry, you were going somewhere.
Yeah, we met 11 years ago here in San Diego doing comedy, and it wasn't. I mean, I started 11 years ago. We didn't really. I remember the first time we interacted was at Till 2.
Sure, it wasn't.
You
good.
did not like me.
No,
is how it felt.
Well, you were good.
Yeah. And I was new,
and
I was probably getting some spots, and I think you were.
I never have a problem with people getting spots.
Really? Because your face.
I have a problem with people who are new and good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's what it was. And then I was probably bringing that in because there were other people that didn't like the fact that I was getting spots because I was new and good.
Oh yeah, I don't ever care about that.
But we were at Till 2.
Because there are plenty of really terrible people that always get spots.
Yeah,
so I get over that pretty quick. We're at Till 2.
We're at Till 2.
Great show. One of my favorite shows ever.
It was such a fun show.
So fun.
Tuesday night Till 2.
God, it was a great time.
Those like 5 years in this scene were just
probably the best.
It was unbelievable.
The only time that I had more fun in this scene, and I want to hear what you're going to say, so we'll go back to it. But the only time I had more fun in this scene was when I started, and like we had the Blarney Stone, which was the show that I ran, and even before I was a stand-up, I had started running that show, and Allison Gill had left or been fired. I think she might have been fired, and they asked me to come in and take over because I was already working at the bar doing other stuff.
Right,
and it was a comedy night, and so I met guys back then. And I had started, and it was like a really good group of guys, mainly guys. There was like 2 females. And I had it was so much fun at the Blarney Stone. Blarney Stone was very similar to what Till 2 became.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like a hang.
It was a hang.
It was really just a hang.
It was
people would show up though.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'd have audience.
Crowds.
Yeah.
But it was almost like you were hanging out with the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like low stakes.
Yep.
You could have fun. It was safe. It was, you could be free. You could fuck around.
Yeah.
It wasn't a club where it was like, you got to do your stuff. But yeah, you were at the bar getting a drink and I was sitting in one of the booths and I think, I'm gapping on his name. Damn it. Doesn't matter. But another comic was like, oh, Dallas, do you know James? And you literally were like, yep. That was it. That was the first time. It was just that. It was a very,
Did I sit down or did I walk away?
No. You were not. You did not engage. And here's the thing. Part of now knowing you knows that was 65% bit.
Yeah. Probably more than 65%.
Probably.
To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say a good 75, 80.
Okay. And and even in the moment, it was funny. Like, it wasn't like, oh fuck.
It was undoubtedly funny.
But you were tall, you were commanding, you'd been in the scene for a few years at that point.
I had a presence.
Yeah. And it was still like, oh, he fucking hates me. Also, I think that's funny.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, man. Especially those, when I started comedy in San Diego, and this, I can only speak for the San Diego scene.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is how it is in Duluth, but huge
scene in Duluth.
Actually, there is kind of a good scene in Duluth. But we really gave each other like a ton of shit. but it was like, but I'd been doing comedy for years before I started doing stand up. Like I was making my living doing and writing comedy, you know. So it was like almost all of my TV work came before I did stand up, you know. So it was like I had been doing comedy professionally for a long time, and it was like we gave each other constant shit.
Yeah.
But it was never like mean. You
Right.
know? It was like when you're a comedian, it's like there's only so, no matter what you are, a sketch comedian, I don't know, improvisers are kind of a weird breed, but they're so positive all the time. But like, there's like, you know, sketches.
It's like they're kind of like theater people.
They're very
much
good call.
like, hey, we're not improvising right now. We're not on stage.
They're theater people who can't sing or dance.
Yet they do it.
Yet they do it. Wayne Brady, the exception. But I like. There's just a certain amount of like depression and sadness that comes with being a comic. And that's not to say that you have to have those things to be a comic. It's just like, you are in an industry that is constantly shitting on you in a negative way.
Yeah.
So
you're failing
constantly all the time. So it's like you have it built into you. And it's such a weird position to be in as a human because you're trying to put joy into the world and getting just shit on constantly. And so it's like, that's why a lot of the comedy you'll find is dark, because you just morph into this weird darkness. And like you find these other people that get that understand that. And part of the joy of that is being able to be mean to each other. And but the reason you're doing it is because you're trying to make each other laugh,
which you do,
and you're kind of so dead inside that the only way to make each other laugh is by being mean.
Yeah, horrible. Which they say is like a big thing with like military guys and stuff. Like the humor within guys that are overseas on tour, you know, doing a tour in Afghanistan and stuff like that, because like they are seeing the worst of the worst of the worst. And I'm not comparing us to them. But I am saying like we are eating shit so often, and we also are around the funniest people.
Yes.
Like that was something I look back and I'm like, there, you know, for especially that pretty much like pre-COVID and like those first 5 years, it was like I was hanging out with the funniest people that lived in this city. Yeah. 7 nights a week.
Well, that group, I mean, it was you and Hicks and that's it. There was other people, you know, a lot of people. Shane Brendan, who's
Lockwood.
So happy that Shane is doing well in Portland.
Yeah, he's in Portland.
Not Seattle, Portland. He's just one of the funniest people ever. His podcast, by the way, Assville, is hilarious if you haven't listened to it. But he's amazing. Lockwood's so great. He kind of came a little bit later.
He came like a year and a half after me or so.
But Sam Wiles, who was a little bit before you, I think, but still, I kind of put you guys all in the same group because there was Crosby.
That's who introduced us. I couldn't think of his name.
Crosby,
Nick.
Yeah.
Nick was like, tell us this.
And Venti. Well, Venti actually was more my class than yours. But there was just this really good group of dudes who were just kind of there to have a good time and hang. And obviously, like my group that I came up with, like Crosby kind of being one of them, but it was like Greg Santos, you know, Kyle Ray, Christian Spicer, Billy, Zoltan, like they had all kind of moved or like, and I was kind of on an island, you know, because I didn't want to go to LA and I was doing my own stuff, and it was kind of like you guys were coming up, and so it was kind of like, well, who are these fucking kids? You know? And
the problem is we were good. We all were positive. We were positive, and we created a very core group. Like we had this very tight group of very friendly. Because I remember Jesse Egan one time was like, he's like, this is special, and I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, when I started, everyone was shitty. Yeah. Everyone was mean to each other. Like you guys like are fucking like this ball of light that hugs each other and uplifts each other and gives each other spots and helps each other get booked. And he's like, that is not what we had.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, Jesse was before me, and the group I came up with though, we were that way. I mean, we were very, very supportive of each other. And I think it was probably because maybe some of them had remnants of Jesse's class, which, you know, was a few years before them. And it's like, but it was one of those things where probably the reason why I was an asshole to you and almost got into a fight with Hicks was it was more like, I mean, actually they're two different things, but it was more like if I found you funny, then it was like, I'm going to do something to you that I think is funny, like ignore you or be like, yeah, all right. And then just walk off. And it's like, for me, how you react to that will determine whether we will be friends. I mean,
That makes sense, which makes sense in the comedy world.
If you can't handle me giving you a little shit from an elder statesman,
right?
Then we don't need to be friends. And there are people who I have met along the way who came after you that I would try to have that relationship with, and they were not interested. And it really was hard. And I took it hard because I was like, wait a minute, am I just an asshole? Like, and it was kind of
you had phases.
Well,
you went through this is my take on it.
Okay,
like I feel like you kind of went through like at least one angry phase is what it felt like, where I think you were kind of frustrated with the scene itself.
Yeah.
And I think you were drinking a lot. I mean, you were always kind of drinking.
I was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
I don't drink nearly as much anymore, but yeah, I mean, that was when I had a problem with some comics, and I don't mind naming the one comic I had a huge issue with, and it was mainly self-imposed. And probably all self-imposed, was with Derek Poston, who I find to be one of the funniest fucking stand-ups to ever come out of San Diego.
Yeah.
And I've told him that several times. We did that one show at Till 2 where I booked you and Derek and Brad, I forget his last name, and you guys crushed it. And I did that because I knew you guys would crush it. Like, if
that was like the SeaWorld show, right?
Yeah. If at that time in the scene, if there was comics I knew that were available in I don't mean available, but in San Diego that weren't, I didn't have to make a call to LA or something to get Greg down here or something. But like, if there was, it was you, Derek, Ryan, other people, but you guys crushed. And like, Derek and I had a weird moment, and that moment came out of definitely me being too much of a sloppy drunk and me having a weird interaction with him on Facebook, and then my temper getting into it, going, well, who the fuck are you? And we kind of went back and forth, and he was like, dude, you're an asshole. Like, we like talked, I kind of stalked him down a little bit.
I think I remember the talk. Didn't it happen outside of Madhouse? Wasn't there like an official
outside of the dressing room? We talked outside of Madhouse. And he was like, what the fuck do you want from me? And I was like, I'm like in a weird place right now. Like, because in my mind, I was doing the give shit. Right. I was doing the give shit. I respect the hell out of you as a comic. Let's get.
And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't.
Doing it if I would, because that was the thing, is there were times that I was an asshole to people, and that's unfortunate. And oh well. But like there are most of those times, like you said, 80% bit. It's like, I'm not really going to go up to Derek Poston and be an asshole. I just respect him too much as a talented person to do that. And we talked it briefly out, and he like stated a bunch of shit that he had seen from me, and I was like, damn.
Maybe
and I kind of left going like, holy shit, And it wasn't long after that I like started like eating better and stopped drinking and stopped going out all the time and doing shows and just kind of refocused. It was kind of like one of those things where I was like, well, what am I doing? Like what? Like,
yeah.
And you had gotten very big at the time, so it was like that group that I had kind of become a part of, you and Hicks and all of them, like that I was kind of on the outside of the peripheral, but were the people that I would hang out with at shows.
Yeah.
You guys weren't going to shows anymore, or you were doing your own show or headlining here, and it was like we weren't all like you have that Madhouse poster,
Yeah. That
was very regular. That group of people would be together.
Yeah.
And then it was just, now we're all headlining or we're all featuring, and so it's like it just became not fun for me anymore, and that led to a lot of me being a huge asshole to people and trying to find, okay, well, where's the next group of people I can hang out with? And all of them were like, we don't want to talk to you because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not an asshole. And they're like, no, you are. And I'm like, ah. And then that was just kind of the beginning of the end. And like the last friend I really made in the scene was Jimmy Calloway. And
God rest his soul.
we talk all the time. He's the best.
I miss him.
But so it was like, I know I went on a weird little turn there, tangent.
I think we came to realize that, you getting your shit together is all thanks to Derek Poston.
I mean, it's not that far off to say that. Who still is doing great.
He's killing it. I was just out there. I just spent a week in Austin. I stayed with Brian and Hassan.
I can't believe that. here's what I do. And listen, talk about fucking killers. Brian Simpson is just one of the best comics I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
And am fortunate enough to, when I see him, he is very nice to me.
He's a sweetie. He's a total sweetie.
The fact that he just remembers me is enough. But the fact that he's like, literally, we've been at like, we were at a show in LA or something, and we saw each other, and he would come from the other side of the room to like give me a hug, or, you know, like that shit. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Cause like, I just respect him.
So
I respect him too much for him to like me. Does that make sense? But like, he, like, the fact that I don't understand how you get passed at the store and then leave. Like, to me, it's like, and I'm not saying that as like he did the wrong thing. I'm not implying that at all. Like, it's just crazy to me that you would work that hard, be that good in a city like LA, just crush, and then be like, I'm out.
Well, they shut down.
Okay.
That's what that, I mean, that because I just talked to him about it, but like they shut down.
I know why, like Hassan and Derek and that crew, I know why they left, because they shut down, and Jeffrey and all them.
But there was comedy to be had, though. But he was, and I think he was going to Austin a bunch during the shutdown, and then he was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And then I also think there was some weirdness here with him.
I'm sure
I think there was some relationships and some stuff that was going on that just was like, why am I here when Austin is happening the way Austin's happening, and there's opportunity for me there, and there's people that are literally like, come here more and do more.
That's what COVID did that I thought was really interesting, because again, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying they made the wrong decision. They're clearly doing amazing.
They made the right decision.
They're doing amazing out there, but that's like part of the reason why people go, why don't you move to LA? And you're like, well, like for me, I'm like, well, I like San Diego, and there's like a cool scene here. And I'm like, I'm not making enough money, but I'm making some money, you know. But it's like during COVID, it was like people were like, why the fuck am I here? And like people went to Austin. Richie Leese and other people like went to Florida and like started a huge scene in Florida doing what they do. Blake Wexler went back to Philadelphia and like opened a theater, like opened a small venue in Philadelphia to like open. One of the guys, Michael Bush, who founded the Midnight Show, which was a huge sketch show at UCB for a decade and birthed like all these great writers. He moved back to his hometown in Ohio and opened a comedy school, like an improv school and a sketch school. Like, it's like COVID did this thing where it's like, hey, you know what? You can just go home and be the king of your scene, and you can build something on your own. It's like, it reminds me of what they're doing in Austin when Bill Hicks left LA. And his crew, the Texas Outlaws or whatever, they went back to Texas and opened a club, and they were just getting huge. And it's like, it's crazy. But I only bring it up because I'm like, man, like to get as big as Brian and even Burner like got in that scene, and then to be like, nope, like that just takes balls. And I mean, I'm so happy for them that they're doing so. I really like. I don't do much stand up anymore. Like we've talked about this a little bit. And why I'm here is to promote my album. It's a new live storytelling album. In the last, decade, I got way more into storytelling than like stand up. And since COVID, I kind of stopped. I didn't do anything really during the shutdown part of COVID. I did one Zoom show and it was a nightmare.
Yep.
I got offered to do a parking lot show for like $10. And I'm like, why would I do that?
Nope.
And
honk honk, flashlights.
And it kind of became this moment where I just was like, I don't really miss stand up. I don't miss this. What I miss doing is getting on stage and telling stories. I miss that. I miss being a part of that. And that's what started me putting out the first storytelling album, Rough Drafts. And then I was like, I'm going to put out
thanks for
more.
coming. We're out of time.
Great. This was great. And
because this is your second.
This is my second
storytelling album.
But I'll tell you this, like, I would love to talk about it, we will. But when I stopped even caring about stand-up, like I do not care about stand-up. I still get to do it from time to time. I'm doing a show. I don't know when this comes out, tonight, and doing a show tonight. I'm just kidding. What if I was like, is this going to come out in an hour? I'm doing a show next week. People will still hit me up, see if I want to do shows, and if I can, I'll do it.
Yeah. It's different once you have kids, because also they're like, "What's it pay?" And they're like, $15. You're like, that doesn't cover.
No, thank you.
The sitter while I drive to the shop.
No. So it's like it is a different thing, and I'm pretty open with how much I need to get paid, and people are very kind about it. But it's like since I've just really gone like, you know what? I like stand up. I like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I really stopped caring about bits a long time ago. I stopped caring about writing bits. The passion that people have, that like yourself, like you're always coming up with new stuff. You're always trying new stuff. Every time I see you, I feel like you have a new bit that you're trying out.
That makes me feel good.
Well, it's true.
You see me once every 9 months.
There you go. Well, like, so good for you, But I mean, you could go see me Wednesday and be like, I've seen all this shit. Like I saw this shit 3 years ago.
Why is that though?
Because I just don't have that drive. It's like I look at stuff that you're doing. I look at stuff like Zoltan's doing.
Don't even put us in the same categories. Zoltan's the guy that, like, as he's walking to the stage, he sees someone's shoelace and turns it into 8 minutes of fucking
I'm just saying,
fire.
Like, I look at what you guys do, and I go, not just you guys, or even if I see Brian Simpson, if I see Dustin, like Dustin Nickerson, like
Who haven't we named? We need Taylor Tomlinson. We know her. We're friends with her. Dustin. I just want to make sure we get to drop all the.
Are we friends?
We're acquaintances. Taylor was here, but she was like not here, but she was here, and we interacted, and we were on shows with her, and then she's the biggest comedian in the world right now.
Anyway, so I look at those other people, and they go. I see them. I'm talking about people like
Taylor Williamson. Did I say? What did I say?
Taylor Williamson. Talking about. Okay. I look at those people. The people I see more regularly is what I'm mentioning. Where I look at you guys and what you're putting out there, and I'm like, it's always something new, and it's always funny, and I'm always like, that's such a wonderful like way to get to where you got to. Like the punches are strong, the setups are strong, like, and I just like. When I stopped trying to do, I wrote a new bit that I did last year that I've been doing, and I still am working on it and adding to it.
Never
and I really, really like it. I love it. It kind of works sometimes. It doesn't other times. But like, to me, I'm like, it's taken me like a year. And the other day I was like, oh, that's a great tag for that bit. And I'm like, I'll try that on my next show in like a month.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't have the drive that you guys have. My brain works the same way, where I can look at a shoelace and think of a bit. That's why, like, when I mainly just do crowd work when I do shows, because I enjoy that. I enjoy like the freshness of every show. I hate doing bit. I've always hated coming up with bits. I hated because like I have a pet bit, right? Like I do this big old pet bit about comparing your pets to your
kids. Yeah,
I love that bit. Do you know how many shows I've been on? Where weekends I've been on where I've done that bit the first show, and then the headliner goes, "Can you not do that bit because I have a bit like it?" A lot of times is the answer to that question. And you go, yeah, because it's not really some original premise. And so then I'll like, I did that. And this isn't like a negative thing. I've opened a few times for the Sklars, and they are the nicest people. Honestly, those guys have been so kind to me. But I did a pet bit, and then they're like, can you not do that? We're working on a new special. We have that, but we're trying it out all weekend. They were so nice about it. Right. Sure, I'm the fucking feature.
Yeah.
Like this is your show. Yeah. No one's coming for me. So like, yes, no problem. And then they get up and they do it, and it's so much better than mine. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't need to do that.
I don't ever have to do that.
Why would I do that? And then like I did it, and then I did a show, and the headliner, same thing, was fairly nice about it, but seemed like he was uncomfortable asking me, which was fine, because he wasn't like huge.
It is funny though, because even when you work with huge. It is funny how I'm like, oh, like, even though you're insecure as fuck right now.
Yeah.
You can't.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you a funny story about that. But
not that I'm totally I'm insecure as fuck half the time too on getting ready for a show.
But this comic went out and he did his pet bit and mine was better. And I'm like,
you're like, really, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna
sucks that I can't do my bit.
That's when you turn to be like, hey, can you not do that bit? Because I'm gonna open
mine's better. But like so it's to me, it's like I just don't. I don't have the desire I just don't have the drive to sit down and write stand-up. It just doesn't come to me. When I sit down to write, I write stories. I write like narrative stories.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I grew up writing sketches and scripts, and that's where my comedy started, was all sketch comedy. So like, maybe that's why that's ingrained in me. But I don't think like you guys think, in the sense of bringing that to the stage and framing it in stand-up. And
tell me
this though.
When you were earlier in the stand-up thing, when you had your crew, when you were at shows 5 nights a week or whatever, surrounded by comedians, part of the hang, were you writing more?
I was doing one-liners.
That's true.
And
but you were writing a lot.
I was right. I have a whole hour of one-liners that I recorded an album for that I took down.
Why?
It's no longer something that should be out there.
Didn't age well.
The world is different now.
Is it a different
world?
6 years? 6 years changed the world?
I maybe make fun of Shane Brendan a little too much for stuff. But I was writing a lot of one-liners. And back then, those first 3 years of me doing stand-up, maybe even 5 years of me doing stand-up, it was like all about doing new weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like the last thing that I've done that I've been very proud of was my Miley Cyrus bit. But that Miley Cyrus bit is like literally what I always used to do. I would never do, I was never interested in traditional stand-up. I never cared about doing traditional stand-up.
What's
I wanted
that even
to
mean,
get up.
though?
You know what it means. I wanted to, most stand-up is traditional stand-up, and that's not a negative.
Do you consider what
thing.
I do traditional stand-up?
Yes, I do, but that's not a negative. I'm not saying that in a negative
No,
sense.
and I'm not taking it negative. I still look back, I'm like, what is traditional stand-up? Because I don't consider myself a joke teller.
No, I mean, yes. That's
like
old school
Hicks, I look at Hicks and I was like, I don't know how you remember all this. Like you're literally set up punch. And I'm like, I'm sitting here like I write that for me to do 15 minutes, I write down 4 things.
Yeah. But I mean, but I'm talking about traditional stand-up is somebody who's going up and they're gonna do bits.
Okay.
And I don't mean, I mean bits in like, I've written this out. This is an observation thing that I'm going to take, and that is not a negative. Yeah. I can't do that very well. I have a very difficult time doing that. A very difficult time coming up with a long form bit. And when I stopped drinking for like a year and got myself healthier and stuff, I found that I lost my passion to try to go on stage and be dangerous, for lack of a better word. Not dangerous in the sense like, oh man, I'm unfiltered, you can't fucking cage me. But dangerous in the sense where like, let me dig a hole and see how I can get out of this hole.
It's such a good feeling.
Such a good feeling. But I just didn't want to do that anymore. And that was kind of the beginning of the end. But when you guys were coming up, I was probably still doing a lot less traditional stand-up, where I was like doing like the fucking blue collar comedy tour catchphrases, and I was doing like a lot of one-liners. I do a lot of characters.
Yeah.
I used to do stuff where I would show up and just do a whole character the whole night. Like it was just, I didn't bunting. I used to do my nights as Wally Bunting. I just didn't want to do anything that was like me doing bits, and that wasn't me commenting on. No,
it's just what it was just
what I could do and was passionate about. But I lost that passion, and I recently, maybe like one of my shows back from COVID, I was like, I'm gonna go, and I wasn't really getting paid anything. It was just like, hey, you want to come do like 10 minutes? And I was like, yeah, I do. I went and I wanted to do one-liners, so I got up and I did one-liners, and they all fucking fell flat. And I was like, this isn't the audience. These work. It's me. Like there's something different in me saying this now. Does you know what I'm saying?
Oh, like, for sure. And time between sets matters. There's a fucking rhythm that falls off.
But it was like, I just didn't. It just, and then I'm like, I don't really want to. I don't care about writing a bit or coming up with a bit now and then doing it at Madhouse.
But so the reason why I asked,
there's no passion.
If you wrote more then, is because, like I said, I was last week. I was in Austin for 7 days. I was staying with Brian Simpson and Asana Ahmad and Hans Kim. They all live together, and I was at a club pretty much every night or hang. I think I was there 6 nights. I was on stage 5 of them, and whatever. I wrote more in those 7 days than I've written in the past 4 months, 5 months. Because and I was like, oh, this is the thing. Like literally, I wake up and it's Brian and I or Asana and I having coffee, talking about something, that show last night, this thing, blah blah blah. We're laughing, and when you're hanging with comics, you're laughing. Yeah. You're always laughing, and somebody says something and you tag it. It's not even a joke. You just tag something they said about the weather, and then, oh, I'm going to order this, and it's like, it's funny people. Yeah. And I just realized like, oh, all of a sudden my creative juices fucking just flew. Yeah. Flowed. And I was writing It was crazy. Like, I was like, this is, and because I've felt this way for the past couple of years, and then like COVID didn't help, but like most of my group has either quit or moved on.
Yeah.
I'm here because my job is kind of here and my kid's here.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like, if I could go to Austin right now, I'd be in Austin. Like, it's something I plan to do as often as I can because there's just a good vibe. Nice. It's a good energy. I have friends there.
Next
the
time you go, I'll try to go.
Dude, I'd love to do that.
Really
That'd be
would.
a blast. But I did find that, like, oh, this is part of it. The being around funny people that are all pushing each other. When you go, I got to sit there and watch. I sat in this little booth looking down on the big room watching Brian Simpson destroy the main room in Rogan's new club at the Mothership.
Yeah,
which was that was amazing to even get in there and see it.
Anti-culture, good culture.
That's bullshit, dude. They're just doing comedy, dude. It's just good. It's so that club. Hassan walked me through it and gave me the tour of the whole thing. Every little detail is designed to increase the experience of the audience and the performance of the comic.
It's because you can't cancel, dude. You can't cancel in that club. That's what makes it so good. You just can't cancel people in that club, dude. It's just
because everyone's phones are locked up, man. And it is funny because there is a sense of like, this is for us. Like, the crowd knows it too. Like, this is just for us.
Yeah. Well, that's why people say, like, we would always talk about the hang, there's a lot of comics who I think have misinterpreted the hang to be like, well, you have to hang out just to put in time and be seen. It's like, well, most of the hang is just you hang out with other comics and you
get better because
just bullshitting and you're just talking. Like, when I was really doing stand-up a ton, I was hanging out with Greg Santos and Billy and this guy Jared Super, like, nonstop. Like, we were always hanging out. And we wrote more stuff in that time.
Yeah.
I wrote more jokes in that time than any other time, for stand-up anyway. And we were having fun, it was like we were going out, we were getting drunk, we were trying to come up with stupid bits, we would go up on stage and shit all over each other. And like, it was all about us having fun on stage. And that was it. And like, I took my cue from Patrice O'Neill, who's one of the greatest stand-ups that ever lived, where like, he would always talk about how every show for him was different, but he had the same core of what he was doing, but every show was different. And he did that because he wanted the audience and the other people watching to experience something different. Yeah. So you could see him Tuesday and you could see him Wednesday.
And it might be the same joke,
but
it's not the same. Yeah.
And like, to me, I'm like, that's what I want. I just want to party. I just want to have a party. And like, a lot of that was like, you're saying, it's for the people at that venue. It's for the comics. Some of this stuff is going to be for the comics to laugh at. A lot of this stuff is going to be for the audience. But if we can merge the two, dude, fucking party.
Yeah.
And like, that's all I wanted to do. That's why I love like those the Bad show that Connor used to do. Like, those kind of shows to me are the fucking, I love that. And it's like, that's when you're hanging out and that's when you're writing stuff, like doing a weekend of comedy, every night you're just in the club for 2 hours or, 7 hours. Yeah. You're there and like, can't go anywhere else. You're just watching comics and you're just writing and coming. Oh man, I'm going to try this for the next audience. Like, you just, you're live, but it's like, but there is an element of that where you need to like be pushing and putting yourself out there and trying to get booked and try, like, there's the Laugh Factory in San Diego and like, and
has anyone done it? Who's done it?
I don't know, but this isn't them bad. I'm not bad mouthing them. I don't know anything about them, but it's like, I'm one of the more seasoned and well-known comics in San Diego, I would imagine.
Yes.
Historically.
Yes.
And they have never, ever reached out to me to do a show.
Me either.
Not one time. And to me, there's an ego where I'm like, they should, because I can kill. Yeah. I've headlined almost everywhere. I've done very well. I know what I'm doing.
Ask anyone. I'll do the job well.
I will give you this list of professional stand-up comedians who will vouch for me. And no one's ever reached out to me. I did a show just recently, where I headlined. I was told I could do 25 to whenever I wanted to get off stage. And I ended up doing 45, crushed the entire time. One of the guys on the show was a booker for the Laugh Factory, didn't even speak to me after the show. And I'm like, to me, it's like, if this was years ago, dude, furious. I would have been furious. But I don't have that drive to go, why do I care about?
You're older, you're wiser, you have more patience, you have kids.
It's not even wiser, because some comics, that's what they want to do. They want to get there. But it's like, for me, the part of putting in the work of being seen and talking to people and trying to get booked, and that's done. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And if I'm going to do that and put forth the effort, I'm going to do it for storytelling. I'm going to put out my storytelling albums. I'm going to, work with PR and other people, and I'm going to try to make that a thing rather than worry about being a feature for some comic I've never heard of who's going to headline and do 27 hours of dick jokes. Like why do I care about that anymore? Like I don't. And it's allowed me, really has, James, like this is probably the most I'll say that you'll ever, I think, really, really appreciate the growth. Because I know you're all about centering, growth, peacefulness.
Progressing on the path of humanism.
Yes, I have become so much more of a cheerleader for my friends who I know who do comedy. Whereas before I would have been fucking jealous as shit.
Yeah.
And it all kind of started with when we were golfing a lot with Lawhood and Dustin and stuff. Mm-hmm. And Dustin and I would have these really weird ping pongs where it was like, I didn't know if he was like actually pissed off or like, it's like, it was weird to tell. And like, and for me, there's a twinge of jealousy for Dustin, 100% that he is like, but it's deserved. He's crushing.
100%
He's
deserved.
so good.
He rubbed everyone the wrong way, and it was everyone. I think everyone was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Because he showed up, was good, had jokes, did it early, but he showed up and then turned professional.
Yeah.
And the rest of us were like,
but see,
what the fuck is he doing? How do he just did that?
Yeah.
And then there were some people who were very upset about that.
Yeah.
And then the rest of us were like, how is he doing? Like, I still look and I'm like,
well,
how do you do this?
We talked a few times. We would hang out and I would be like, and I would literally be like, how the fuck are you doing all this stuff? And he was like, I'll tell you how he did it. And he like told me how he did it. And I was just like, why am I not doing it? It's like the easiest thing you could ever do.
He's like, I pick up the phone and I call.
Exactly. You grind and you send out 1,800 emails and know that you'll get 5 back, you know? And it's like, but he also has the jokes and the performance to back up what he's putting out there. So it's like, whereas I would have looked at him and did for a long time, but those golf times and then after that was a really big tipping point for me where it was like, fuck, man, like, why can't I just be happy for everybody? Like I got to this, like, really honestly, like I was like fuming inside and I was angry. And it's probably why my back fucking went out and I was in the hospital for days because I was probably just so stressed and angry. And it was just like, what am I doing? Like, why can't I be happy for these people? Yeah. And I should
well, I think that's hard in comedy anyway. Cause even when they're your best friends, even when you had your core group and you were in I'm going to like the San Diego scene was amazing, is amazing, whatever. But like, even when you're in the shitty little scene in your town, and you're like, and somebody gets booked to do 8 minutes somewhere, in your mind, you're like, dude, that's awesome. You're gonna do the wood. You're gonna do the fuck, dude. Like that was a big deal, right? Then you got to do the. But in your head, you're like, why the fuck they ask you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're my best friend. I'm happy for you. Why the fuck did they ask you?
Why am I not doing it?
Yeah. What the fuck,
dude? I would be so mad, especially in the later years when it was like, I'm besides Zoltan, I'm the most, in my mind, not the greatest. I'm the most seasoned, solid comic working in San Diego. Where like I know
since
myself
Jeff
enough.
Bilodeau left,
Stupid. I know myself enough to know that I can get, or actually Jesse Egan, I would put in that camp too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're going to give somebody 30 minutes. Like I will fucking kill it. I know that I will. And like, but
you had a reputation though to turn. You had a reputation of like you'd go into your one-liners. This is my take, and this was back before any of us were probably doing 30. This is like a while back. But I always felt like you had a reputation, like you were a wild card because one, you would not hesitate to 100% shit on the venue.
Yeah.
You would not hesitate to 100% probably drink a little too much early on. And it would turn where like if the one-liners weren't going how you wanted them to go,
then the audience was going to pay for it.
The audience was going to pay for it. And I think that scared bookers a little.
But here's the thing, the difference between that and somebody who I've seen recently, not recently, but people I see recently.
Say his name.
No,
or her.
I really don't remember their name. But I've seen comics, who do that, who turn on the audience.
Yeah. And you're like, I could do that better.
I always left and I always crushed. If I turned on the audience, I never left to silence.
You're right. That's true.
I mean, I'm just telling you the truth. Like, and that is ego, but it's like, I knew that if I yelled and screamed to the audience, I would leave with an applause. Like there was no way I was leaving to dead silence. It just wasn't going to happen. So it's like, that's where I was saying, like, that is when I was energized to like, let's dig a fucking hole.
Yeah.
And like, I made fun of the Madhouse a lot, and I never knew that pissed off people, because to be honest with ourselves, the Madhouse at the time was at the top of an abandoned mall, and it was like kind of scary. Someone was murdered outside of it.
That's
like
true.
It was like, like, so you kind of, you could get away with like shitting on it because of the situation the club was in. I never shit on the Madhouse on stage. Privately, I think we all shit on every club for how things are run, but at different times, not the whole time. You know what I mean? Like there was a time where at the Madhouse where like early on when it was in the mall, and you were like, what is happening? Like no one knew what was happening, but it was like, that's when Robert had to kind of like step in and take over. And, it was like, there's just always going to be moments. I like to shit on clubs. I would shit on American Comedy Co. when I was at American Comedy Co. Like it didn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, if you're that offended that I made fun of your club, and not even like was like, yeah, man, this place is shitty, man. There's roaches in the food. Like I didn't do that.
No,
I'm shitting on where we're at.
Yeah.
Like that's what I did.
The observation of the space.
Because that's the thing. When it comes down to it, like Robert is one of the most generous, kind people in the San Diego
100%.
You can't find somebody else who cares about comics more than Robert.
He started the Madhouse and gave 4 comics and gave us all so much. Like I cut my teeth there.
Yes, and Madhouse, when it went to the mall, was the first place to make me a regular. They were, they gave me so much time. They let me do so much stuff. And I never, ever would shit on that club for the club's sake. I would shit on everything surrounding the club, because we were in an abandoned ghost mall.
Yes.
But like,
I did an entire show there.
Yeah.
While there was a guy, you remember
on the roof,
the guy was going to jump.
Yeah.
He had gone over the railing.
Yeah.
And what's crazy, we thought the crowd knew. They didn't know.
Yeah.
And it was like me, Shane, Ryan, I forget who else, but I remember we were sitting there like, and we had to do a late show.
Yeah.
We changed out an audience and brought him in while there was a guy sitting there talking, like cops trying to talk him down off the ledge. They brought him a pizza, and we're all like,
that's so fucking
we have to sit here and be funny, and literally 14 feet away, there's a guy.
And when I found out that people were like really upset at me for like, there was a few people who were really upset for how
comics
who would shit on the Madhouse. And Robert never did. Robert and I probably still text every once in a while, maybe like every 3 months. He'll shoot me a text, and and if he ever said something to me, holy shit, I would have been like, fuck it, I'm done. I will never say another word. Yeah. But even after these people told me I didn't say another word, because I'm like, I didn't know that. Like, had I known that people were actually taking it a little personally, that I was making fun of
people that work there.
So, yeah, some of them.
Okay.
That really hit me hard, because I don't want to do that. But it's like, but if I was early on, when I was like, before I was just like, let's just do bits, and still wanting to go up there and do something different and make it kind of a party and make it kind of chaos, like, yeah, I would turn on the crowd. And like, my wife hated it. She stopped coming to shows a lot because she was like, I hate when you get mad at the crowd. And I was like, but I'm not mad at the crowd. I'm acting angry at the crowd, and they love it. Like, I can see their faces. They're all having a good time. And maybe there's some people in the back who are fucking pissed and hate me, whatever. That's going to happen no matter what I do. But it's like, if I've always had a rule in comedy, especially when I just did crowd work, for like a couple of years, and that's all I wanted to do. When Russell Hicks and I were like feeling out crowd work at the Blarney Stone, I went off the rules of Don Rickles and Jimmy Pardo, which is like, I can shit all over the crowd, right? But if the crowd isn't into it, then I'm not winning.
Right.
But if I can shit all over the crowd, like if I can shit all over Dave in the front row or in the third row, and if the crowd is going to be into it, because fuck Dave, right? Doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
Fuck them. They're going to be into it. If Dave's not having a good time, then I'm losing. Dave needs to have a good time. The crowd needs to have a good time.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to have fun. I can say that Dave has AIDS and he just gave the entire room AIDS. As long as Dave's laughing and the crowd is laughing, we're going to have an okay time. I saw
But
Jimmy
you did
Pardo,
that at an AIDS benefit.
Yes. Well, that was the wrong call. One time I did a cancer benefit with a band where we wrote a song. We wrote a reggae version of I forget what it was, but it was all about Oh, I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
I did a private show one time, literally private, like at a campground that a friend of a friend's, like parents' friends booked because they travel with some group. And we did it in this like rec center at this campground. And the lady that booked, she booked me and I booked the whole show. And she was like, hey,
Why
just
didn't you book me on it. Go ahead.
because Jeff Bilodeau was available.
That's a good point.
And he did great. But she said, she was like, hey, just don't, he's got cancer. This is her husband. She's like, he's got cancer. Just don't like bring it up. Like it's pretty bad. And this was like a bunch of like wealthy white people that all own like crazy big RVs that drive around the country together and whatever. And I went on stage. I was like, this is the only show that I think I've ever done where I know for a fact next year you all won't be here.
You gotta laugh.
It got a laugh from everyone but the lady, whose husband and what's dude, like some of these people were old enough they got wheeled in wheelchairs.
That's so funny. Holy shit.
And I found it hilarious, and
That's
not everybody laughed,
joke.
I should say.
Sure.
Not like a few.
That's so
the comedians laughed.
Of course. I just found, I mean, like, listen, I'm sure I was much more of an asshole more often than not, but that's literally like one of the things. I would come home angry. I'd come home mad.
Yeah.
I was just like, even when I was like not drinking nearly as much and was skinnier and stuff, like even then I was just bitter. I'm like, well, I'm healthier mentally now. Why am I not fucking touring the country? Why, where's my Netflix special? And then I had to sit back and go, I'm not that good. Like, I'm a good comic. I'm not a great comic. And I don't know if I'll ever be a great comic. And I also don't have the drive to do it. Like, and even if I did have the drive, I don't know if I could do it. So it's like, to me, it's like, with storytelling, to me, it's like, I'm good at this. Like, I am objectively, I know that I'm good at this, and I get better every time. And I'm learning much more about myself. I'm learning about like how to be vulnerable with an audience and how to go on a journey with an audience. And obviously I do theater. I've been an actor my whole life and on stage. And it's like merging those two worlds of comedy and theater. Very Birbiglia-esque. Like he was one of the guys who inspired me to be like, you can do this. Like I can do this. Like, not that I can do what he does. I'm saying like, you can merge comedy and theater. Like it's possible. And to see somebody do that, and he's so funny, and to do it at such a wonderful level, I was like, okay, all right. Well, there's a little bit of a framework here. Like that's what I want to focus on, because that's what gets me going. Like that's what entices me. That's what I want to do. I want to have an audience go on a journey with me. And I know that sounds really fucking heady and artsy.
No, but it doesn't.
But like I want them to try to cry. I want to try to make them cry.
That's my goal.
I want to try, and I don't want to go out on a big fucking laugh. I want to go out on like and that's where it ended, and people are like, holy shit.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. And I've been able to do that a few times with my stories, not every time, but I'd say 60% of the time.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the elation that I feel from that experience. And I'm like, that's the dragon I want. I don't want the
I'm 100% like in my mind, and I've known this for a while, is like I want. And you can't do it in 10 minutes. You need 45 to an hour, but I want to take them all. That's fine. Go ahead.
I'm listening to you.
I know,
you want to take them all?
No, like I want the full ride. I want to talk about my dad dying of cancer, and I want to go through all the emotions with him. I want a crowd to laugh their ass off, cry, and then laugh through tears on the way back. And I see Birbiglia, and I see even like Dimitri Martin and stuff where it's like,
he's done it.
I look at that and go, I might be more one-man show. But the only outlet I have is 8 minutes at the Madhouse. So I got to figure out how to do this and get really good at the jokes and the things and telling those stories. And then I look at them like when I hit the road, like I had a great conversation the last time I was in Austin with Derek Poston. I was staying with him. And we had this conversation is like, now looking back, like what you want this to be is so different than what you thought you did 10 years ago. Because now it's like we had this whole thing where it's like, what do you even like? What's your theater show look like?
Yeah.
What's that? And I know I have bits. I have things I've written down where like, I can't do that until there's 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And we got in this thing. I was like, dude, my theater show is literally going to have like backup dancers, cheerleaders. Like I want to go through the stories. I want to go through it all. And you can't do that even in 45 minutes at the ACC.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love that idea. And I think it's so just like that. I think that's kind of like, not the future of comedy, but I think there's going to be some, like a lot more of that.
People are finding out that it's like, I think Hassan Amaj did a really good show similar to that. Moses Storm, his special Trashy White.
Yeah, Trashy White.
I put off watching that for way too long. I just watched it recently and I was like, this is so good.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like clear that he wasn't going for the jokes.
This is not set up punch.
It was like, it's very similar to me, I feel personally, and again, this can sound...
He was inspired by you.
No. This can sound very egotistical of me, and I feel watching him, I felt very similar. It was like, when I write in comedic format.
Yeah.
So if I'm writing a story that's going to have a beginning, middle, and end, there's always going to be some jokes in there. And it's like they're almost accidental jokes where I can't get away from them because they're there.
They write themselves.
And that's how my brain works. And so it's like the last few stories I've done, there's been very minimal humor in it. And it's been more heavy than humorous. And people are like, well, this is a little different. And I'm like, yeah, but it's where my head is right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to, I can't put a joke in here. Like this is, but it's also, I'm writing a bigger show. And it's like a piece of the show. And so I'm like, well, this part can't have a lot of humor in it. It's got to be more, so it's like I did a story that will be on the next album, not this album, but the next album, about my mom who had cancer and died. And it was like going through her diagnosis and all this stuff. And the very beginning of the thing, maybe in the first like 2 minutes of the story or minute of the story, I had a joke and the audience was like, and I literally stopped and I was like, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to laugh. It's going to be all right. It's the only way that I'm going to get through it. And they were like, and then after that, it was like freedom, like people a lot of times in those instances, cause it's not a comedy crowd. It's a literary crowd that I do these stories at, but it's like, they come to be entertained. So, but it's like, they're not sitting there waiting to laugh, they're sitting there like to be entertained, but it's like, and they hear something heavy and they don't want to be assholes. But it's like, once I gave them the permission that it's okay to laugh at this stuff. And then it's kind of like, and the jokes got better anyway, but like there was a lot of jokes. And, that's how I process trauma. And so it's like, that is what interests me now. And so with this album that's coming out Friday or whenever, it's probably out if you're listening to this. I'm sure it is.
It will be, but yeah.
It's called I Didn't Start the Fire and Other Lies.
By Dallas McLaughlin.
It's on Apple Music and iTunes and Bandcamp, and Amazon, all those things. But all the stories are about like jobs I've had or and stand-up being one of those jobs I consider. And then like how I've kind of fucked it up. And like the cover of is a bridge on fire. And alcohol is dripping over the bridge because like a lot of those came from me being a drunk and getting into fights. And I've always had a problem with authority, always my whole life. Like I just hate authority. I grew up punk and that's where I still sit today. Like I was just listening to a new punk band on my way down here in my Tesla. And cause Elon Musk, dude, free speech. And this album is like, the first album was there's a lot more heartfelt stuff in it. And this album is just like literally like me just kind of like, it's almost like releasing the demons a bit, where it's like a lot of people have done a lot of shitty things and it's like it was a way for me to process a lot of these stories live and get through that trauma of like that bad job experience or this person just being a horrible asshole for like any other reason than just me affecting their ego,
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fun. I don't know what the response will be. I'm worried that a couple people
you
might
care, but do you not care
about the response?
Yeah.
Oh God, I care. Yeah.
Like the response from the people.
Well, here's the thing. Most of the people that are mentioned in it
are dead.
Possibly. One of them, very possibly. I never mentioned anybody's names that shouldn't be mentioned.
Right.
There's a story about me meeting Steve Martin and Paul Simon. of course I mentioned
God
their
rest their
names.
souls.
God rest their souls, both dead. Actually, Norm Macdonald is in that story, and he is dead.
Norm.
But that story I mentioned by names, but there's other ones where like their names are taken out or purposefully. But it's like if you were to do enough research, I'm sure you could figure
connect
it
the
out.
dots. Yeah.
Although one, I was pretty surprised because I was like, oh, I have to bleep their names because I did the story 8-9 years ago, and I'm like, oh, I did their names because I'm like, whoever's going to see this or care about this, And then I dug it up and I was like, oh shit, okay, I should bleep their names. And so I bleeped their names, and then I went and did like a Google search. Nowhere. I can't find them anywhere. And I'm like, oh, that was a lot of trouble for nothing. but I mean, like if somebody was to, they could figure it out. But it's like, I don't want anybody to be hurt by the stories. And there's only really one person I think that would be hurt, and they deserve to be hurt if they figure it out. But they also might be dead. But
that's a tough one when it comes to like joke writing and storytelling. Like there's so like even on here, like there's so many things. I've had 2 divorces. I'm raising a kid, co-parenting with a person, and it's like, what can I say? What can I say? Because I don't. I want to tell my story, but I don't want to infringe on their privacy.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, with my storytelling, like, there is a big element of that, and that's like, to me, it's like I tell a story about how I got into radio in San Diego and was like a DJ for a long time, and the beginning of the story is really gnarly. It's like me, it's
you killed the current DJ.
I did. I murdered him. That's how it works in San Diego. If you kill the one current DJ, you become the DJ.
Acquire their skills, their microphone.
I had to deal with people who this is 2002. I was on the a radio station called Star 100.7, which was like contemporary hot AC. Like at the
Star
time,
100.7.
At the time, it was Bare Naked Ladies and Michelle Branch and Creed and all that shit. And it was a contest. I won the contest to be on the radio. Be a DJ. It was like American Idol for DJs. And it was like, I won this, but I was in a punk band at the time. I couldn't have been a worse choice for this job.
Because you hated this music.
Like viscerally. And so when I would be on air, I just like shit all over the music.
This is another shitty song by Creed.
I mean, you're not far off. And then they like brought me into the afternoon show because they thought I was like being funny.
Yeah.
But it's all in that. Please listen to the album. You'll get the whole thing. But like I talk about the afternoon show people, I bleep their names, but I talk about the afternoon show people, and I was really afraid that I'm like, I do mention them pretty negatively. And I'm like, but they were really mean to me. And like part of me goes, well then too bad. It's like it's not a lie. I took out your names, and if people do the research and they find out who you are, which again would be very difficult to do, because the internet's changed a lot since then, 2002, it was like 20 years ago. Like, to me, it's like, I don't want people to go, yeah, man, fuck them. But at the same time, I'm like, you were very, very mean to me. And like, there was no reason for that. Like, you only did it because it was almost like they could, and I was very young at the time. I didn't know shit, so it was like, it was a weird moment. And then the back half of that story is me going to work at 94.9, where I had bosses who were unbelievably kind, and I was an unbelievable dickhead because I'd just gone from a terrible experience. And then I'm like, well, yeah, well, fuck all this stuff, and they were so patient and nice and kind, and it's like, so it's weird, and I do, like you said, like I'm like, I struggled with it where I'm like, I didn't bleep their names at first. And then my wife was like, you should bleep their names. Like, you should just do that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't want it to be too outward, but at the same time, it's like, they were not nice then. Yeah. They could be great now. They could be wonderful people now.
Hopefully they've grown.
But they were really not nice, and they were not nice to me. They were not nice to my opinions. They were, and they treated me like I was, like a tourist almost, that like I didn't belong there, and I won a contest, and that's why I was there. And it's like, well, yeah, that's why I am here. I didn't choose this.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it was kind of like a weird experience. And then the background of all that is that we're in an environment where I am going insane because I have to listen to fucking Bare Naked Ladies again. Like it's like, or Lenny Kravitz or some shit. Like so it was a weird experience. And that is the one where I'm like, man, I feel weird about it, but at the same time, like, it is my story that I need to tell. Right. It needs to be out there. And I've taken out their names. So it's not really about them. It's just about these people.
It's your experience.
It's my experience with these people. And they were not kind. And it's like when I do a big thing about SeaWorld. And after, And afterwards, it was the same thing where like the person was never mentioned. But fuck them. Like the person that's in the story that was really, really mean to me and everybody. And it's like, sorry.
Do I know this person? Did I work with
you
this?
don't.
Oh.
But I was like, it was before your time. But I'm like, sorry.
But also you were mean.
You were horrible. And you know what? I don't work at SeaWorld. I have nothing to gain or lose by this story being out there. If this person wants to get mad at me or somebody at SeaWorld wants to get mad, nobody actually from that time, I think, works at SeaWorld anymore. Like, so to me, it's like, it is my story and I've made it as vague as possible to tell it the right way. But at the same time, these things happen to me. And you know what? They happen to a lot of other people. And those other people are like, you know, I don't want to get shit on. Well, it's like, here's somebody who went through something weird. And I admit, and like I think a lot of the growth for me, talking about the growth of me being like a writer and a comic and stuff, is there's a lot of me in there that is the problem. You know, like that's why the bridge is burning. It's like, it's not like it was.
You lit it on fire.
It's not like I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, like there is a lot of me being an issue here and being the issue here. And I think that's important too. I think that's a huge part of those stories that need to be told is it's like, when I remember when I did the radio one at first and I like did it through a critique session before we put it up, the first draft of it, people were like, you're an asshole. And I was like, yeah. Oh my God. Like I didn't even look at it that way.
Derek most was people, right.
Derek was right. Because there's most people who look at it and go, you got to be on the radio. You got to be a DJ on the radio. Like, why did you fuck it up? And you're like, why did I fuck it up? Like, like you look back at it now and you're like, I did fuck it up. Why did I do that? Yeah. But then at the same time, I'm like, I didn't really want to do it. I stumbled into it. I was very fortunate to do it. Didn't really care.
Do you feel like, I felt this at SeaWorld. I know you do. Really. And then what I hate is we didn't even touch on SeaWorld. We didn't even touch on Biffy.
Listen to the album.
But listen to the album. You'll get the stories. But you touched on this earlier with like, oh, fuck. I was going to connect dots. Doesn't matter.
SeaWorld? You were
But I remember when I was at SeaWorld and I got pulled aside and they were like, we need to, can I talk to you in the conference room? I said, yeah. And we go in, and I forget the gal's who was my boss, but she was great. But she pulls me, and she's like, "Hey, this is kind of a big deal, but I have to actually write you up because you haven't been clocking out at lunchtime, and that's like a really big deal. So I'm really sorry, but like we've mentioned it once before, and it's happened again. So I have to write you up and put it in your file." And I was like, okay. And they were like, it's a really big deal. I'm like, I guess I don't, I jump around on a stage like an idiot 4 times a day. Like, what are you talking? Like, and it's just, and oh, fuck, you said something earlier. It just comes down to like people, like, I think we're in our heads since like elementary school. They're like, we're going to have to send you to the principal. This is going to go in your file. Yeah. And I think that stays with people their whole lives where they're at the job and they're like, oh, I don't want to get written up anymore. Oh, it's like missing work or something. Like with like the kids being sick and like missing work and like, I don't want it to go in my file. And I remember being like, we're at SeaWorld. What the fuck are you talking about?
Like, too, is like, you're like, this is just a job. You're the police. Yeah. Like, it is very, I remember one of the last times I got written up at SeaWorld. They brought me in. They gave me like a sheet. I forget what I was written up for. Any number of things. And they were like, you know,
you have to sign it to acknowledge. Yeah.
And then at the bottom of it, they have a space that says employee comments. And next to employee, like every space, you know, there's a line for where you can write. For the employee comments, the line literally stopped after like an inch. Like, or 2 inches. Yeah. It was like the tiniest line. Everything else had a whole line. Yeah. Everything's like full lines and lines and lines. The employee comments, little 2-inch line. And so that's what I wrote. I was like, I would like to, that's all I wrote. And I gave it to Heather, who was my boss at the time. And honestly, one of the most patient women in the world. She goes, you know, this goes in your record. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she goes, okay. And you want to keep your comments like this? And I was like, well, they didn't give me any more space to write. She's like, I'm like, they didn't.
Also, what do you mean by record?
And she goes, okay. And she put it in. And I'm like, who's going to look at that and go, oh, I guess we have to fire him? He
Well,
wrote,
what's funny is-
I would like to. And then he didn't finish his sentence.
Yeah.
Gonna get fired. Like,
What's crazy is, do you know what that record's for? It's so they can fire you.
yeah, it's for
Everything is there.
fired.
So like, hey, we had not probable cause, but like we warned him twice.
Yeah.
We noted that, and then this was the written warning.
Yeah.
Because if we have to fire you, they have to show why they fired you, so you don't just sue
Totally.
them. But I'm like, my file.
Yeah, write it up.
What is this? Does it when I get a job at fucking TGI Fridays next? Is it going to go with me?
Yeah,
no,
they're gonna be like, wait. Oh, yeah, I mean, like that's the best part about that is like I go out on stage and dance in costumes.
yeah. I spray
Do you
people with
think
a
I give a shit about my file.
Yeah.
Like, where I like clocked in late or I was late or what's up. Did I go out and do the show? And like,
Did I kill
was
it?
Great. Did everybody have a good time? Great. Sorry that I did this other thing that has nothing to do with the actual job.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think I mean, not to bring it back to COVID because I do have to go, but one of the things I think that COVID did do during the shutdown was kind of wake a lot of people up to go, fuck my job.
Yeah.
Like my job sucks.
Yeah. And also, these people don't give a shit about me.
Yeah. Like we could like I looked at it as this. We all went through a near death experience and we came out the other end going, I don't want to live my life that way anymore.
Right.
And people are like, no one wants to work anymore.
No.
And it's like, no, they don't.
Not for that.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
Right.
You think that somebody wants to go to McDonald's during a pandemic and work? No, they don't. And like them not doing it doesn't make them lazy. It makes them normal and fucking logical. Like, you don't want to go to McDonald's and die. Like, I mean,
But now they don't want to go to which also like
I'm telling a story in Sunday in LA. And I've told it another time, but it was about me losing weight. And one of the parts of the story was that at SeaWorld, when I was bigger, it's almost 300 pounds, I started jogging, 280, got up to 281. And I would jog to try to lose some weight. And there was a moment where I was jogging and my heart started to hurt and my chest started to hurt. And I was at Dolphin Stadium and I was going to go take a shower and I got dizzy and stuff. And I literally thought to myself, I'm going to die at SeaWorld. I'm going to die here.
Yeah.
This can't be it. Like, I literally was like, I can't be here anymore. Like, things have to change. It was like a big moment. It wasn't just me. Like, I could die of a heart attack. It was like, I'm going to die here. Yeah. Like, it was just, people looked at COVID and they're like, I don't want to work at my shitty job anymore. You know what? I'm going to go do something else. Yeah. I'm going to move back in with my parents. Who gives a shit? Yeah. Who gives a shit?
What's crazy about that is then you worked at SeaWorld for 8 more years.
No, I did not. No. After that, I actually worked at SeaWorld maybe a year and a half longer. Because after I
was there almost 2 years, and you'd already.
I started to lose weight, but I had not. Okay. Because I remember I still worked there for years afterwards.
Yeah, you found a way to stay somehow
I didn't find
employed.
a way. They just kept me on the payroll. But I left and I did I was gone and then I came back probably 5 months later. I came back to do Christmas stuff and I had pretty much lost most of the weight by then. Mm-hmm. And people were like, whoa. But that was kind of like that period was when it started to really show. Like when I was leaving, I had lost probably like 20, 25 pounds, but I was still big enough where it didn't really show. Yeah. To me, I felt
everyone was like, hey,
better.
You look good. You look good.
Yeah. But I still had the same size clothes. I just looked a little better. But then, like, when the rest of it came off is when people were like, you know, I came back and people didn't even know who I was, you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry you have cancer. I'm sorry.
Go buy my album.
Yeah, go buy Dallas McLaughlin's album.
I Didn't Start the Fire and Other Lies.
Everywhere you can buy albums.
Except for Spotify.
They
just don't, they won't support comedians right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, so even Zoltan and I were talking about it because his albums are off. They took most comedian albums off of Spotify because they can't figure out how to do a rights share with it. And it's very convoluted and really stupid. And it's basically Spotify not wanting to pay. It started with Rogan and all of that is when it all started and came to a head. And then it just got worse and worse and worse with like, how are we paying these people out? People are getting copyright infringement and we are not going to do anything about it. We'll do it for the music, but we don't care about it for the comedians. And the comedians are like, what the hell? You know, so it's like kind of a snowball. And so they won't even put my album up because it's listed a certain way.
Well, fuck them.
Yeah.
So get it on Amazon.
Money anyways.
Yeah.
I had my album on Spotify. That One-Liners album was on Spotify for fucking 4 years and I probably made like $5. In the first week, my album was on Bandcamp. My last album, I made like 4 times what I made in 4 years on Spotify.
You made $20.
I made $20. Spotify is fucking terrible for artists, anyways. For listeners, it's great.
Yeah. As a platform, I love it.
Go buy it. You can follow me on the socials at Mr. James Schrader, at Dr. Squatch.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to say your socials?
Nobody's going to follow me.
I know. No, they're not. I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me about your first kiss.
6th grade camp. It was also the first time I touched a vagina.
That was a big day.
Went for it all.
6th
grade camp, we were playing Mission Impossible, so all the camp lights are out, and you have to find the flashlight on the ladder. And April Roberts was her name, and
she's dead now.
She's not. We were actually friends on Facebook for a little while.
She was like, "Do you want to find the flashlight?"
But we went to a cabin and went outside of a cabin, and we started making out. I had no idea what I was doing.
No,
making out. Mouths are everywhere, and I instinctively put my hand between her legs, outside of the jeans.
Outside. Never made it inside. Outside.
No.
Okay.
No. I don't even know if either of us knew what would have happened if that happened. And
it was exciting to be outside, though.
Oh boy, a rush that I've chased my whole life. And
I have a joke where I talk about the first time as a young man. You get one knuckle past the jeans and under the panty.
Yeah.
And how that's like,
big
dude,
moment.
that's the softest skin.
Big moment.
Woo.
Yeah.
That's a big, yeah.
All right. Well,
beautiful.
thanks, man.
Thanks for being here. I love you.
Love you.
Dallas McLaughlin, everybody.
Move to Hawaii.